Hello, everyone, and happy Sunday. Thank you very much for joining today's stream and the big community chat. As always, I have prepared quite a number of news in the news segment about some major developments, and hopefully, you will find a news segment itself important, interesting, informative. And after the news segment, if you have any questions, by the way, if you want to discuss about any topic after news segment, drop your questions and your comments in chat, and just use the capital Q or just capital letters, and I will react on it. And of course, during the stream, you can also use support platforms like PayPal, Boosty, or Super Chat feature on Rumble to highlight any question or their comment. And after news segment, let's have a good chat as we always do. That being said, dear friends, let's go through some news now without any further delay. And I will start with quite a large scale long range strikes on Russian Federation orchestrated by NATO, obviously with their proxy Kiev regime. And on this matter, I have this report, for example, that air defense systems past night intercepted 86 drones that were launched by Kiev regime to strike deep into Russian territory. I can give you some specifics on that. 29 drones were intercepted over the Belgorod region, and this region and city of Belgorod itself is like a front line nowadays. There are massive strikes with all sorts of weapons that Kiev regime possessed. Unfortunately, on a regular basis, there are casualties as a result of these strikes. 14 drones were intercepted over the Saratov region, 11 in the Voronezh region, also 11 drones in Smolensk region, another 9 drones in Bryansk region, 7 in Kursk, 3 in Kaluga, 1 each over the Crimea and the Moscow regions. And this is not all. Since this morning, dear friends, Russian air defense systems are actively working, intercepting incoming drones. And if during the night time, overall 86 drones were intercepted, since this morning, since 8 a.m. Up to 2 p.m., according to very same RIA Novosti, air defense systems intercepted 73 more drones that was launched by hostile side. I can give you details on that too. 52 drones were intercepted over the Bryansk region this time around, 18 drones over the Belgorod region again, 2 drones over the Kaluga, 1 over the Kursk region. And the information is coming from our defense ministry's latest update. And probably you are interested what was going on yesterday. I had day off, yesterday on Saturday, and I can give you update on that. Yesterday, during the 24 hours, basically, Russian air defense systems intercepted 7 HIMARS missiles and 326 drones that was launched by Kiev regime with assistance of NATO. So, as I said in headline itself, Russia is experiencing quite a large-scale, long-range attacks past several days, and unfortunately, there are casualties as a result of these attacks. For example, yesterday, Russian media reported that 11 people were injured in Udmurtia region of the Russian Federation as a result of these long-range attacks by hostile side. And reports are that, even though residential areas were targeted, Kiev regime also allegedly, according to all sorts of speculations on the internet, Kiev regime allegedly also struck some military facilities, some companies, manufacturing companies that are part of Russian military-industrial complex. But yet again, this is rumors that are circulating on the internet. Russian Defense Ministry did not really give us an update on that. But what we know is that in Udmurtia alone, there was 11 people wounded as a result of these long-range attacks. Rumors are that one of the plants that was targeted allegedly is engaged in the production of Russian some missiles, including Iskander, Yet again, this is speculations. Obviously, I don't know if this is true or not, because officially Russian uh, state institutions did not provide any update on that. So let's keep all this. Let's take all the information that is available on internet with a pinch or even mountain of salt, because in absence of official information, it is difficult to navigate through all these millions of different rumors and their speculations, right? And unfortunately, when it comes to casualties, this morning Russian media reported that a civilian was killed in a Belgorod region as a result of attacks by hostile side. And I'm afraid this week, Miroshnik, Russian diplomat, is sharing on weekly basis updates about casualties among Russian civilians. And I'm afraid this week, casualty number is going to be significantly higher than past week. And if I remember correctly, last week, 20 civilians were killed, and more than 100 civilians were wounded as a result of this long-range attacks on Russian Federation orchestrated by NATO member states. First of all, UK, obviously, and the reports are, by the way, that during these long-range strikes, Kiev regime is deploying relatively large number of Flamingo cruise missiles, long-range missiles, and when it comes to this Flamingo, this type of missiles, we all know that this is a British missile, isn't it? This missile was developed by British company together with a company from UAE, I believe, and in production of these missiles, UK is involved, Denmark is involved, I believe. There were rumors that Denmark will produce fuel for this missile, and God knows which other NATO member state is involved in this in production of this long-range missiles. And there were reports, by the way, speculations, let's say, that during the past 24 to 48 hours, quite a number of these Flamingo missiles were also allegedly intercepted by Russian militaries. And yesterday I saw a report on one of the big Russian Telegram channels that Russian militaries, as a result of long-range retaliatory strike, eliminated their point of launch point of these Flamingo missiles and number of launchers. Yet again, good news, one might argue, but I'm afraid if you take in account scale of capabilities of collective West, and they are now moving towards not full mobilization, but significant level of mobilization in their military industrial complex. I'm afraid they are now in a position to produce significant volume of launchers and their missiles to then to launch then these missiles to strike deep into Russia, and for a plausible deniability, order the regime to take the blame on themselves, and they will do it happily, by the way, right? As Kiev regime always does. Russian military is retaliating, of course. Russian military is retaliating on military, logistical, energy infrastructure of their hostile side on Kiev controlled territory for now. But things might change in the future. But for now, Russian retaliatory strikes are exclusively on Kiev controlled territory. And for example, this morning we had this report that in Kiev, military, logistical, energy infrastructure was struck by 13 Russian Iskander missiles and 4 hypersonic Zircon missiles. Videos are circulating on internet that are depicting consequences of these attacks. But yet again, let's wait for Russian Defense Ministry's update on that, so that we will have a big, more clear picture about past night Russian long-range strikes on hostile territory. Also, TASS news agency reported yesterday, that was the reference, that Russian armed forces liberated Karpovka settlement in a DPR. Another settlement is liberated from Western-backed terrorist regime of Zelensky. And that's been said, dear friends. Let me give you also update on this very important news. I think about 2 weeks ago, Kiev regime conducted yet another terrorist attack in Moscow, and General Alexeyev was wounded as a result of this terrorist attack, and he is recovering now in hospital. And you know what I said from the beginning? I said that this terrorist attack most likely was orchestrated by British secret services and was green lighted by British secret services. Probably US CIA was involved there one way or another also, but leading role was on UK. And today we have statement of director of Russian Federal Security Service, FSB, that that there is a British connection in their assassination attempt on General Alexeyev. What a surprise! What a surprise, man! Who would thought that? So you see, by the way, how many times my prediction is going to become 100% correct, man. I'm good at this game, man. I'm good at this. I grew up in journalism after all. When I see stuff, most often than not, I do understand what the hell is going on straight away. But yeah, it is what it is. Let me give you some details. There is a British connection to assassination attempt on Lieutenant General Vladimir Alexeyev, stated FSB Director Alexander Bortnikov. One citizen managed to escape, as you know. One of the participants in this terrorist attack did manage to escape to Kiev-controlled territory, but two participants were detained, and FSB has gathered quite a lot of information about this attack. And well, when FSB director is saying that there is a British connection, well, that means something, isn't it? And if I remember correctly, this well might be first instance when FSB director is pointing finger at her at UK. Maybe there was similar instances before too, but this is important. This is important. I think Bortnikov also went to say that Russia will never forget and never forgive no one that was involved in this terrorist attack on Russian general. And maybe this is a warning, by the way. Maybe it's nothing, but maybe this is a warning that MI6 staff should be extra careful, because things happen, and some MI6 officer might walk through London street and there's someone gonna take his freaking head off with machete, right? It's usual stuff nowadays in London, when all sorts of freaks are running around with machetes and stuff. So no one would be surprised, I guess, if one or several MI6 officers will be beheaded by these machete lover people in London. And there is a lot of them nowadays, isn't it? And if I was billionaire, by the way, I will organize that, I can tell you that straight away. If I had resources to do so, I would definitely not hesitate to finance a true hunt on MI6 staff, man, and British political leadership and British aristocracy. I would organize true hunt, by the way, manhunt on them. And I'm quite sure there will be a lot of thousands of people in UK that will happily take out anybody, right, for decent reward. And for different gangs, decent reward might be very different amount. But yeah, unfortunately, I don't have resources to eliminate enemies of humanity. And of course, Western elites, Western secret services, Western political elites are existential threat for humanity. So if anyone does it, that will be great service for humanity, obviously. Obviously, right? I don't think anyone will argue with that. Vast majority of humanity will most definitely agree with me, 100%. So, warnings from Bortnikov that Russia will not forget and not forgive, and I hope, well, we will not, man. And there is plenty of ways how we can retaliate, and we will, yet again, hopefully. Anyways, let's continue with some other news now. And another NATO member state, new one, the declared that it's quite effectively demilitarized now and no longer has anything to send to Kiev regime, Western-backed terrorist regime in Kiev, and this country is Finland. So Finnish Foreign Minister Elena Valtonen stated that Finland has sent to Kiev regime everything it could from its own stockpiles. She urged a 90 billion EU aid package to be of loan, by the way, to be transferred to Kiev regime as soon as possible. But this is not going to be easy because there are a number of EU member states and NATO member states that are so upset with the Brussels and there are also this Western-backed terrorist regime of Zelensky that they might go a long way, by the way, to block any aid to Kiev regime nowadays, right? But I will get to that point in a minute. First, let me also give you information about a number of tanks, for example, main battle tanks, that Germany, another NATO member state, transferred to Kiev regime to fight against Russia. You might be surprised, by the way, once you hear these numbers. So 21 Leopard 2A6 tanks were transferred to Kiev regime, also 19 Leopard 2A4s, 103 Leopard 1A5s, 28 M55S. This is Slovenia's modification of Soviet-era T-55s, I believe. Also 30 M84A4s. This is Slovakian version, I believe, of T-72 tanks. And Slovakia is another country that was quite effectively demilitarized during their previous government. Nowadays, Slovakia is led by Prime Minister Roberto Fico, and under the Fico's leadership, Slovakia distanced itself from this camp of enemies of Russia, and Slovakia is no longer providing any military assets to Kiev regime, but her previous government did quite a lot. They sent a lot of tanks, a lot of infantry armored vehicles, a lot of other stuff, right? And also fighter jets, by the way. Slovakia quite effectively has no fighter jets now, and NATO countries are basically taking care of Slovakian airspace. Almost all fighter jets Slovakia had was transferred to Kiev regime, MiG-29s first and foremost. And also 20 T-72M1 tanks were transferred to Kiev regime. This is all coming from Germany, from German taxpayers. All these deliveries of about 200 tanks, by the way, is coming from German taxpayers. So if one day Russian Federation will decide to strike back on Germany, by the way, no one there should say that, why they've been targeted. They did nothing wrong. No, they did wrong, man. They did wrong. Just in terms of main battle tanks, they send, look at the numbers, by the way, more than 200 of them, right, to kill Russian citizens. Nothing to be said about all the other weapons and money that Germany has allocated to fight against Russia. And I remind you, dear friends, after US, Germany is second when it comes to financial and military aid to Kiev regime. Something to keep in mind. And I guess day of retaliation is coming, man, because because there is certain things that never can be forgiven, just never, right? Just everything has its own time, and as one said, or as one say goes, revenge is a specific dish that needs to be served cold, right? So time will come. Meanwhile, another NATO member state, UK, which is definitely leading the charge nowadays against Russia, at least on European scale. UK is coming up with more threats towards Russia because they are emboldened, by the way. British criminal elites, British elites, American elites, European elites, these are Epstein class, isn't it? So you understand what kind of creatures are in charge there. It's Epstein class, scum of humanity. I mean, horrible elements, right? Absolutely horrible elements. And those creatures, I refuse to call them humans even, because it's a shame on humanity, by the way, that these kind of creatures exist, right? That look like humans, man. These Epstein class elements. But nevertheless, they are involved in UK, so much so that their defense minister is bragging about deployment of British troops on Kiev controlled territory. He is not saying openly that he loves to send British troops to fight Russia, to die in this fight. But yeah, he's saying that he wants to be first who puts British troops in Ukraine. And he is justifying these statements while saying that, well, because this would mean end of the conflict, which is insane to formulate this way, isn't it? Especially if you're well informed that Moscow has said there on numerous occasions that deployment of any NATO troops on the Kiev-controlled territory will be considered as direct involvement of the country from which these troops are coming in hostilities against Russia, and Russian troops will treat them as a legit target, as a combatants and legit targets. So I don't know man, level of degeneracy of British elites, British defense minister, who is saying a British public to hear that he wants to be first defense secretary who will send the British troops in Kiev controlled territory, because that would mean end of the conflict. What's going on, man? I mean, either public in the Western countries, by the way, are totally, majority of public are totally naive and has no care about what's going on, right, in terms of foreign policies of their countries, have no freaking idea how risky moves of their elites are. Or, I don't know, man, maybe European societies truly are suicidal, because these kind of statements should be challenged on so many levels, right, from public itself. But nothing is happening, with the exception of a few well-informed, responsible citizens, either in UK or US or France or Germany or elsewhere, with the exception of literally few responsible, well-informed citizens that understand how dangerous all these developments are. Everyone else is keeping quiet. Why, man? Why? I don't get it. But eventually, UK gonna send its troops, man. We all understand this. Already officially was said that about 100 British troops are stationed on Kiev-controlled territory. Obviously, they are there not to provide some humanitarian assistance. They are committing some crimes against Russia, right? And hopefully all of them will be eliminated by Russian forces. If it was up to me, I would definitely order Russian security services to pinpoint their location of the British militaries and just kill them all, right? But yes, I'm not in charge, so yeah, they will probably live for some time, but not for long. But eventually, they're gonna deploy troops. They're gonna deploy troops, and we're gonna send them back to UK in a body box. That's what's gonna happen, right? Yet again, everything that has its beginning has its end also, and that should be case in regards to this restraint of the Russian leadership. First of all, Russian president, by the way, because I guess nowadays there is only a Russian president and maybe a few people in his closest inner circle, right, that are still for restraint policies. No one else freaking understand in this country from 145 million what the hell we are doing, man. This is my personal opinion. Maybe majority understands. I don't know, but I'm reading comments, by the way. I'm reading comments on internet, on the Russian segment of internet, because I want to know what people think, right? And based on the comments, by the way, very many people are extremely frustrated with this restraint policy, and I think many many commentators, many citizens here in Russia will agree with me that with this restraint policy, we actually invited upon us, upon Russian Federation, tremendous volume of trouble, to put it mildly, tremendous volume of trouble. If we acted very differently from the beginning, then situation would be very different. But well, it is what it is. We are where we are, right? And yet again, everything that has its beginning probably has its end also, right? This is how even universe works. This is universal law for everything. So yeah, we will see. We will find out. But also interesting stuff that I want to share with you, dear friends, that Europe, is not united, right? European countries, European elites, European peoples even, they hate each other. I'm not exaggerating nothing. They literally hate each other. Here in Russia, by the way, you will struggle to find that many people that hate entire population of some countries, but in Europe, it's a different story, man. After all, Nazism and fascism is being burned in Europe for a reason. These people hate each other, man. And one of the countries that are infamous for being full of hatred is Poland. And Polish society literally hates everybody. I mean, they don't like nobody in their neighborhood. Polish elites, historically speaking, at least last several centuries, love to be prostitutes of London, and they are prostitutes of London, largely, right? Some of them are choosing their pimps to be from America, but majority of Polish elites are prostitutes of London, and they hate everybody. They hate everybody, and tensions are rising. Tensions are rising because, several countries in Europe are on a trajectory of extreme militarization. And one of those countries is Poland. Another one is Germany. And we all know from history what happens when Germany is extremely militarized. Nothing good, isn't it? France is nervous. France is very nervous, by the way. And you can see how relationships are deteriorating between France and Germany, between France and Italy, for example. Why Italy? Because Italy and Germany are building alliance within the alliance again. Remember Second World War? Fascist Italy was an ally of fascist Germany, right? And there is so many lines of tensions inside the Europe, and one day this line is gonna explode into actual confrontation, especially between Poland and Germany, and between their allies. They will have allies, but. And on this matter, Polish foreign minister, extreme Russia hater, but also just a scum of humanity that are full of hate towards everybody. Sikorsky stated that, Poland now is a major power in Europe, if you ask him. Let me give you some quotes. Germany and France together are now too small to govern Europe. Poland is not only the largest of the 10 countries that joined the EU in 2004, our economy is now among the 20 largest in the world. So Warsaw has some ambitions to be leading capital in Europe, right? And it's not going to go down well, neither in Paris, neither in Berlin, of course. First of all, in Berlin. And Sikorsky also went to say that Poland has more tanks than Germany, France, and the United Kingdom combined. And this gap will only increase in the coming years. So you tell me what the hell is going on in Europe, by the way. I mean, is this an indirect threat to Germany and some others? Could be, by the way. And I'm telling you, I have said how many times, give it 10, 15 years and Germany and Poland gonna end up in a war. It's inevitable, absolutely inevitable, maybe even earlier than that. Especially tensions gonna rise when Poland will reclaim western parts of Ukraine. Some 70% of western Ukraine used to be part of Poland before Second World War, right? And Stalin took it and gave it to Soviet Ukraine. And as a compensation, Stalin, very same Stalin, took some land from Germany and give it to Poland as a compensation. And when Poland will take back its eastern territories, then you think what Germans gonna say? Well, you get your land back, right? So give us our. And I believe there is hundreds of thousands of ethnic Germans that are still living in these areas that was given to Poland after the World War II. So, I mean, there is many other reasons why these two countries are on trajectory of the war, but one of their major issues will be territorial dispute, right? And Berlin obviously will closely monitor the developments in Poland, and I'm quite sure nobody in German leadership is happy when Polish foreign minister is issuing this kind of indirect threats that we have like more tanks than you guys, all of you combined. I mean, we are here force, right, to be reckoned with, and we have to listen to us now. And by the way, as I said, Polish elites historically love to be prostitutes of London, and obviously without London's backing, Warsaw will not escalate with neither Germany, neither France, neither anyone, right? But they do. So that means that London is actively working to divide, to further divide European nations, right? Because that's the classic way of British rule, right? Divide and conquer. We all know that. So it is what it is. Interesting developments there. Also, dear friends, you might hear already information that potentially NATO member states are considering now deployment of their nuclear warheads, nuclear weapons into Estonia as a sort of deterrence. And by the way, from Estonia to Moscow, from any point in Estonia to, let's say, Moscow is, it depends what kind of mean of delivery you are using, plane, fighter jet, or hypersonic missile, for example, but it's minutes. It's literally minutes, right? From Estonia to St. Petersburg, it's minutes. From Estonia to Moscow, it's minutes. So this is very serious developments, isn't it? And obviously, Kremlin commented on these rumor speculations that are happening now that Estonia might house some nuclear weapons from NATO nuclear powers, and there are three countries, isn't it, that are nuclear armed there. That one is US, another one is France, and the third one is UK. UK has no nuclear triad. British nukes are stationed on Vanguard nuclear submarines, right? And will be stationed on the next generation submarine that they should receive, they should receive 10 years ago, but they did not, right? But they don't really have nuclear triad. France does. US does, and France does. And there are talks between Germany and France, I believe, that French nukes to be deployed in Germany. There are talks between France and a number of other countries, including Poland. Poland also wants to house nuclear weapons, and Estonia is among them. And this is happening on top of all these speculations in all these countries, Poland, Germany, Sweden, and others. How they're going to become nuclear country, how they're going to move towards their own domestically built nuclear weapons. And of course, Moscow cannot ignore this stuff. I remind you that Turkey also said that, well, other countries will break nuclear non-proliferation treaty. Turkey will move this in same direction. And Turkey will also seek a military nuclear program. So this is very serious stuff. Peskov, press spokesman of the Russian president, commented on that very diplomatically. And let me give you a quote from his statement. If there are nuclear weapons on Estonian territory aimed at us, then our nuclear weapons will be aimed at Estonian territory. And Estonia must clearly understand this. He told the Western News Service, Pavel Zarubin, basically, a journalist that is like best friend of Putin nowadays, right? I don't know anything about Zarubin really, why he become like this person that has exclusive access to Kremlin. What kind of journalist is he? Uh, but when you are this close to government, you are a bad journalist. I mean, let's be real, right? When you are too close to powerful people, you are no longer journalist, you are propagandist. So Pavel Zarubin is a propagandist, but nevertheless, time to time, through Zarubin and his program, Kremlin is sharing some information with the public, and that's about it. Thanks God I don't watch freaking TV, by the way. I don't want to see no freaking Zarubins and other creatures that pretend to be journalists, man. So, MSM is a garbage here in Russia too, man, not just in the West, here in Russia too, because that's how it is, man, right? There is no more real journalism left in this world, man. They are still journalists alive that are trying their best in alternative media, but in MSM, there are no freaking journalists left. I can tell you that. Personal opinion, you might disagree with me, you might agree with me. I don't know. Anyways, yes, that's a very diplomatic response from Moscow that, yeah, if Estonia begins housing nuclear weapons, then we will respond accordingly. And, well, okay. Okay. I don't think this response is an adequate response because threats are overwhelming, right? NATO is deploying its military assets. It's a strike package, basically. It's a first strike package, first strike infrastructure that is being built throughout the eastern borders of NATO, on Russian border, and only way we can neutralize the threat, by the way, which is already overwhelming. Only way we can neutralize threat is a preemptive strike. If we are serious about it, then that's how it is, man. Only way you can neutralize this first strike capabilities of the NATO, which is clearly overwhelming, man. It's a preemptive strike. And if Russia had some other president, probably we will see preemptive strike being done, and France and UK being demilitarized completely. Only takes half an hour, right? Russia definitely has capabilities to do so, but under the current leadership, clearly this is not going to happen. And so these first strike capabilities of NATO will only increase throughout their incoming months and years. And God knows, man, when they will launch attacks on Russia, they might actually overwhelm our air defenses, our defensive capabilities. And that's why it's a logical question. Why are we allowing this first strike infrastructure to be built? And why we have legit right for preemptive strikes? We know this first strike package is against us, right? They're not going to launch these missiles and all these weapons. They're not going to use it against freaking aliens from Andromeda Galaxy. They are deploying this stuff. They are conducting dozens and dozens of trainings, military exercises on the Russian border to attack us. So what are we waiting for? What are we waiting for, man? I don't know. Maybe you understand, dear friends. What are we waiting for? Share your take in the comment section. But I clearly don't understand, man. We have every reason to take action. Preemptive strike will do the job, right? And we will put globalists and European elites into their places forever, right? Whoever will survive from them. But, Kremlin has different plans. Okay. Hopefully they know what they're doing, man. Hopefully they know, although I'm not sure about it. Anyways, as I said, there is a significant tensions in Europe, isn't it, between different countries, different peoples, and there are two countries that are now under their siege, kind of, right? Under the siege of formerly their allies, their NATO allies, EU allies. These two countries are Slovakia and and Hungary. And, both countries were receiving oil, for example, from Russia through Druzhba pipeline, which is operational but not working because of the terrorist attacks of Kyiv regime on this pipeline whenever it's operational. And it seems like both capitals, Bratislava, capital of Slovakia, and Budapest, capital of Hungary, had enough of this stuff. And they are kind of shifting their policy from restraint to more hostile towards the Brussels and also towards the Western-backed terrorist regime of Zelensky. And for example, Prime Minister of Slovakia, Roberto Fico, stated that given the Zelensky's unacceptable behavior towards Slovakia, I consider it correct that I refuse the latest EU 90 billion euro military loan to Ukraine. So Slovakia going to block this 90 billion euro loan unless Zelensky and Zelensky's globalist backers will change their position and allow this Druzhba pipeline to go operational again without being targeted constantly. And also, Fico went even further than that. They're not going to just block this 90 billion euro loan, but from tomorrow, Slovakia might suspend electricity supplies to Kyiv-controlled territory. Slovak government will suspend electricity supplies to Ukraine from February 23rd if Kyiv does not resume oil transit through the Druzhba pipeline. This was announced by the country's Prime Minister, Roberto Fico. So today is 22nd February. We will see in a day. We will see in a day if Bratislava will go ahead with this threat. And it's not just Bratislava, of course, not just Slovakia, but Hungary is not happy. And Hungary will also block EU's 90 billion loan to Kyiv regime for very same reason. For constant attacks on Druzhba pipeline and for absence of the guarantees that this pipeline will go operational. Right? So let's see, maybe tomorrow Hungary and Slovakia will simultaneously suspend electricity supplies to Kyiv territory. And this is important, by the way. These are two major European countries through which electricity is being imported by Kyiv regime. And also, Peter Szijjártó, foreign minister of Hungary, stated that at tomorrow's Foreign Affairs Council, EU aims to adopt a 20th sanctions package. Hungary will block it, 20th sanctions package against Russia, obviously. And Hungary will block it until Ukraine resumes oil transit to Hungary and Slovakia via Druzhba pipeline. And earlier, like a couple of days ago, I believe Hungary suspended diesel exports to Kyiv-controlled territory. And now both Hungary and Slovakia may further increase pressure and cut electricity supplies, which is absolutely vital for the Kyiv regime, right? Because despite all the Russian long-range strikes on energy infrastructure of the Kyiv regime, well, they still have some capabilities, right, to import electricity and to provide their whatever is left from their military-industrial complex, right, with this electricity to build whatever weapons they are building. So tomorrow going to be interesting day in this regard. Let's see, by the way. Meanwhile, there are talks about incoming new round of trilateral talks between Washington, Moscow, and the Kyiv regime. According to preliminary data, next round of negotiations will also take place in Geneva, in Switzerland. And we have this report on the matter that, according to source of RIA Novosti, this next negotiations on Ukraine will follow the same format and the framework as the previous ones. Okay, very little is known, but very little is known about these talks. But Witkov, especially in way of U.S. president, stated that next round there is some reasons to believe that next round of talks is going to be very promising, and some very good news might come out of it. And what's going to be this good news, by the way? I speculated in my previous update that in next several weeks, in next 2-3 weeks, plus minus couple of weeks, we might see agreement being reached between the sides about ceasefire, and a number of members of our community oppose my take, even criticize me that they think they're going to be no ceasefire. Moscow will never agree on ceasefire and stuff like that. But you never know, by the way. When Minsk 1 was signed, or when there was a talks about Minsk 1 in the past, very few people were actually believing that Moscow will buy into this trap, into this deception. But Moscow did buy into it, right? And not just Minsk 1, but relatively shortly after there was Minsk 2. And even before Minsk 1 and Minsk 2, by the way, day before West authorized final push in a coup d'etat in 2014 in Kiev, day before, number of European leaders signed up on agreement with their, at the time, head of Ukraine, agreement that West would not push for coup d'etat, and Ukrainian government will hold their yearly elections and stuff like that, right? Day before. And for whatever reason, Moscow buy into that stuff too. Moscow trusted these European elites, right? And they were clearly lying, man. It did not took more than 24 hours before West authorized final push to overthrow Yanukovych. Literally, by the way, it did not took more than 24 hours before Western elites, Western leaders broke their agreement. So you see, never say never, by the way. Yes, Russian leadership said on numerous occasions that they will never agree on the temporary measures and stuff like that. But okay, man, there were very many statements made before. Then stands change. And there is always justification, some sort of justification for that. Peskov, press spokesman of the Russian president, will come up with some justification if some ceasefire or temporary agreements being reached, and they might not call it a ceasefire, by the way, to sell it to public here in Russia. They might call it end of war or something, right? They might frame it with different words, so it will be easier to sell to public, because ceasefire is extremely, idea of ceasefire, temporary measures, is extremely unpopular here in Russia, right? Because temporary measures means that sometime in the future conflict will resume, and if we are already in a conflict, then let's finish it, right? Really finish it, so that we can live in peace. No one wants this prolonged conflict. No one wants any conflict whatsoever. People want to live in peace, right? Despite Western propaganda, by the way, that pushes this narrative that Russians are this extremely aggressive people that only dream about wars. This is not true, by the way. Russians are very peaceful people. If not provoked, they will do no harm to nobody. That's how it is. So I think Witkov is quite optimistic there. And let me give you his quote. Hopefully you will hear some good news in the coming weeks, he said in an interview with Lara Trump on Fox News during the televised interview. And he is a bit hopeful, because I think certain framework of that ceasefire, or whatever we're going to call it, is already being probably talked about between Washington and Moscow, maybe with Kiev also, and some preliminary agreement probably even being reached. And this is the reason why London, which is not a part of, at least official part of negotiations, I think this is why London authorized its prostitute Zaluzhny to go off on Zelensky, right? And in past several days, by the way, article after article after article was published, mainly in the British media, in which Zaluzhny is openly, directly attacking Zelensky. This did not happen before. We knew there was tensions between their camps, right, of these people, but this openly, Zaluzhny never attacked Zelensky, but he is doing it now. And we know he is a prostitute of Brits, right? British elites. And without authorization from London, he would not say freaking nothing. So that's, in my understanding, that's good enough indicator that London is not happy with something that has been talked about during these recent rounds of the trilateral talks. And I can give you, and this is not only indicator, by the way, there are many others, right? And I can give you some framework, let's say, how this ceasefire might look. For example, during the next or next several rounds of this trilateral talk that will happen next week or week after, maybe it's a matter of weeks, right? Probably sides will come up with their agreement or the statements that they're going to be ceasefire, introduced ceasefire throughout the line of contact, full-scale ceasefire. Kiev regime will obligate itself to withdraw forces from Donbass if people will support this idea during the referendum. And for sake of referendum to be held, of course, there need to be ceasefire in place, right? So ceasefire will be justified with the referendum and also elections. Right? And one of the reasons why Zaluzhny become active, very active, could be there that he needs some. He has to get engaged in an election campaign, right? He basically launched election campaign with these attacks on Zelensky. And I remind you, dear friends, that after Yermak was removed as a head of Zelensky's office or presidential office in the Kiev-controlled territory in Kiev, Budanov was appointed as a replacement. Kirill Budanov, head of main intelligence directorate of Kiev regime's so-called defense ministry, and Budanov, who is designated as a terrorist here in Russia, Budanov is a CIA asset. Budanov is a CIA prostitute. If Zaluzhny's pimps are in London, Budanov's pimps are in Langley, in Washington. So American ruling class did manage to basically hijack the process, right? Through different means, including through deployment of their assets in Nabu and SAP and all these corruption scandals and so on, right? They did reshuffle government there, this regime inside the Kyiv, isn't it? And they appointed their people in certain positions that work for Washington, don't take orders from London. And this makes globalists obviously very unhappy, right? And so, yes, I can see this kind of framework being worked out. And Budanov probably agreed that on this framework. There must be some preliminary agreement already reached between the sides. And I think this is exactly the reason why a couple of days ago, almost straight after recent trilateral talks in Geneva, Zelensky went to say that there have to be referendum. Without referendum, this decision to withdraw forces from Donbass cannot be made. And for referendum, we need a ceasefire. So you see, there was some... some information has been given out, actually, right, to prepare ground for what is to come. And I believe Washington will push hard, by the way, for this ceasefire. They will call it end of the conflict. They will call it a peace deal. It's not going to be a peace deal because I'm afraid in several months or so, or year or two, globalists will reignite this war again, right? Globalists not going to accept this, but Washington is kind of desperate now and very short on time, and they want some agreement with Moscow. They want some agreement with Moscow. They will try to come up with all sorts of deception operations, right, to lure Moscow into this trap, and it is a trap, right, to force Moscow's hands to agree on these temporary measures, even if it's called not temporary, but full-scale peace and blah blah blah. Unfortunately, there's going to be no peace, no anytime soon. There, true peace, but Washington wants this agreement. Washington wants the de-escalation because the U.S. is about to launch military operation against Iran. But U.S. is about to launch military operation against Iran, and the last thing American ruling class wants is Russia to be assisting Iran with all means necessary, right, to derail whatever plans Washington has in regards to Iran and in regards to all of the Middle East, right? And it's not just the American ruling class; it's a Western ruling class, by the way. On topic of Middle East, they are united. They want to destabilize the region and eventually shut down navigation in Persian Gulf and through Hormuz Strait. And that's what is going on, I believe. In order to keep Moscow out of that war that West gonna launch together with Israel on Iran, they will push key regime, they will push all sides basically, right, to come up with some agreement now that will be present on topic of Ukrainian crisis, that will be presented to public as some major breakthrough, peace and so on and so on, right? So that's why I believe, by the way, in next several weeks, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks, we're gonna actually see some agreements being reached between the sides in regards to Ukrainian crisis, and it's only a matter of weeks because yet again, U.S. in 2-3 weeks time, U.S. probably will have enough military assets in and around the Middle East to launch military operations against Iran. So that's, you see, I don't know if you see the correlation there between the two developments, but I see. So time will tell, but I believe they're going to be some temporary measures implemented there in Ukrainian crisis, in regards to Ukrainian crisis, and Washington will come up with all sorts of false promises to Moscow to somehow keep Russia on a distance from Iran crisis, from Iran war. I don't know if it will work or not. I find it very difficult to believe that Russia will not provide Iran with whatever assistance can be provided, because I said already before that if Western ruling class succeeds in its plans in regards to Middle East, which is just a part of a bigger strategy directed against Russia and China, then that could be a fatal mistake, because if Western ruling elites succeed, by the way, that might be fatal mistake is strong enough characterization of that. It's going to be fatal mistake. That's why I was saying, man, if necessary, Moscow has to take a stand and basically make it clear for the Western world that if you attack Iran, we will take it as an attack on us, and we will retaliate. We cannot afford Western elites to succeed in terms of destabilization of the Middle East and shutting down navigation there in Persian Gulf. We cannot afford this. Extremely dangerous, right? But yet again, my vision of the big picture, my reading of the big picture is my reading, and what Kremlin gonna decide is unknown, right? They have their own calculus, their own vision. When it comes to Middle East, Iran's foreign minister Abbas Araghchi stated that they will present a nuclear deal draft to US in upcoming days, and potentially next week they're gonna be next round of talks between representatives of Iran and US. But yet again, if Iran is actually genuine when it comes to the escalation, because of course they don't want to be attacked by US, Israel, and their allies. Of course they want to stay out of this conflict. So they are genuine, right? They have every reason to be so. But US is not. US is not, because all they are doing is gaining some time, playing game of negotiations. They are weaponizing diplomacy, basically, once again. And once all the necessary military assets are deployed, they will launch military campaign. And I said, by the way, that because Washington wants to create power vacuum in Iran and force, not only Washington, Western ruling class, by the way, it's their plan, right? Washington is just enforcer of this plan. So Western ruling class wants to create power vacuum in Iran, which can be done only with sustainable high-level military pressure, which means there are weeks of on-end strikes on political leadership, military leadership, on everybody, on local administrations throughout the country, right? This is the only way you can, on security forces, police, this is the only way you can actually create power vacuum, true power vacuum, right? And they want to do this to force different ethnic groups in Iran to begin fight with each other to fulfill this power vacuum. First of all, Western ruling class are focused to provoke war between Persians and Azerbaijanis, of course, two major ethnic groups in Iran. With the Baluchis and Kurds, Western ruling class will have no issues, right? They will weaponize these ethnic groups. Quite sure about it, and they already have done it. But when it comes to Azerbaijanis and Persians, by the way, these are, yet again, I have said it before, these are nation builders when it comes to Iranian civilization. Both ethnic groups are totally part of this civilization, right? And in past, even though Persians are majority, some 60% or 50 to 60% are Persians, up to 30% are Azerbaijanis. So even though Persians are majority, in past 300 to 500 years, by the way, most of their dynasties, royal dynasties, were Azerbaijanis. Not to Persians, but Azerbaijanis. And this tradition was broke when US orchestrated coup d'etat in 50s, right, in Iran of last century, and overthrow Mossadegh's government and put in place Shah Pahlavi. That Pahlavi dynasty was a Persian dynasty, but before that, I believe in past 300 to 500 years, all the dynasties were Azerbaijanis, right? So it's gonna be both nations, both ethnic groups, by the way, see themselves as a part of this civilization. So it's gonna be very difficult for Western ruling class to provoke civil war between these two groups and to push then to spell this civil war on ethnic and ethnic lines, first of all, but also on potentially sectarian lines throughout the region. And that's what they want, right? They want entire Middle East to be engulfed in a war on ethnic and sectarian lines, and they want to push Saudi Arabia to attack Iran. They want to provoke war between Saudis and Iran too, because they know, by the way, in that case, of course, they will have a practically 100% guarantees that navigation in Persian Gulf and through Hormuz Strait going to be shut down for a very long time. And I have said that I have explained before why I think they want to shut down navigation. By the way, they want to cut off China from Middle Eastern energy sources, which is very vital, extremely vital for Chinese economy. So they want to cut Beijing from Middle Eastern energy fields and therefore force China to increase its dependence on Russian energy up to critical level. It will take years, right? Couple of years. And eventually that's what's going to happen. China will be fully dependent on Russian energy. And then at that point, let's say if Western ruling class succeeds, then in this plan, then by 2030, 2035, China will be extremely dependent on Russia. And if at that time, Western elites will activate their fifth columns in both Russia and China to create some tensions between the two countries and to put fear into Chinese leadership that Moscow is about to turn its back on China and move closer to the West, of course, that will force, most definitely, that will force Beijing to come up with some, to try at least to secure closest energy fields through military means. And these closest energy fields to China, by the way, happen to be where? In Russia. In Russia. In Central Asian republics, in Kazakhstan, first and foremost, which is rich with oil, but mostly, of course, mostly in Russia. So that's what the end game is of the Western ruling class with this strategy that stretches for decades to eventually provoke war between China and Russia and get rid of these two major and only competitors on a geopolitical scale, after which I don't think our Western ruling class will ever allow anybody to become even closer to the position when they will try to challenge Western elites. That's what is going on. That's what is going on, by the way. And that's why I'm saying neither Russia, neither China can afford Western ruling elites to succeed in regards to Middle East. And if necessary, we should protect Iran by any means necessary and stability in the Middle East by any means necessary. It's extremely, extremely dangerous stuff that is going on there. So, yes, I believe Iran is genuine that they want their de-escalation, but US is not. And right now on your screen, you can see, dear friends, USS Gerald Ford aircraft carrier that was in the moment when it was crossing Gibraltar and entering Mediterranean. So this is second aircraft carrier that is getting closer to Iran, and I still think US does not have enough assets and the logistical lines in place, stockpiles of the weapons in place to not just launch military operation against Iran. I mean, for one wave of attacks or two waves of attack, US has enough assets, but to sustain this high pressure, high military pressure, weeks on end for months and 2 months and 3 months, they still are not having enough military assets in place and enough stockpiles, right? And logistical lines also are not yet there. And I think soon we're going to see a third aircraft carrier being deployed, and there are also amphibious warships. Whatever amphibious warships with the large decks, by the way, are capable or to be deployed will be deployed. And this will take overall, I think, this deployment of assets and build up of logistics and stuff will take another 3 to 4 weeks, maybe, right? So I guess exactly in this time frame, before US launches attack on Iran, Washington will try to reach some agreement with Moscow in regards to Ukrainian crisis. Because they want Russia to stay away from this conflict, to not to provide Iran with all support that Russia can. Obviously, for political purposes, Moscow will nevertheless still provide some assistance to Iran. But if agreement is reached between Moscow and Washington, this assistance will be just on a minor scale compared to what Moscow actually can do if it's interested. And yet again, if Washington succeeds misleading Russian leadership, and if Washington succeeds to lure Russia into this trap, then and if Moscow will allow Western ruling class to succeed in Middle East, in destabilization of the Middle East, then probably that will be fatal mistake for Russia. By the way, I don't think. I think there will be very little chances left after that to recover in the long run, by the way. And I'm telling you, I already shared with you what is the end game of Western ruling class, isn't it? They want eventually to provoke war between Russia and China, and that's why they're going to destabilize Middle East, man. Right? They don't care about no Iranians, no Iranian rights, no democracy, no nothing. They want to cut off China from Middle East, force China to increase its dependence on Russia toward the critical level, then create some tensions between two. And I'm afraid the Western ruling class has powerful enough fifth columns in both, by the way, countries, in Russia and China. So they will probably succeed in that creation of the tensions. And eventually they might put fear in Beijing that, Moscow is about to turn its back on China. And God knows what China going to do, by the way. I remind you that West has a richer history of forcing different countries to go with their military to launch wars, basically. And I remind you that Western ruling class put Japan in a position, cornered Japan, basically, right? In later 30s, London and Washington cornered with assistance of some allies, cornered Japan in a position when the Japanese leadership was thinking that they are finished. They had no energy supplies left. They were almost cut off from financial system, right? And they cornered Japan and forced it basically to launch a war. That's what they did, man. Because Japanese militaries, they were not stupid. They were not dumb. They knew, by the way. They knew that it was not in their militarily. It would be a mistake to attack U.S. because they knew U.S. industrial complex was much more capable than Japanese. They knew it, right? But Tokyo was put in a position from which they only see one way out, to basically take over closest energy fields, closest supply lines, right? And they went with their Pearl Harbor attack, and everything else is history. So they're going to come up with their somewhat similar strategy, and they already come up with somewhat similar strategy in regards to China. And this plan, I believe, is being launched in 2008. In 2008, by the way. So this is a decades-long plan of the Western elites. And why 2008? In case you forget, in 2008, Washington ordered their puppet regime in Georgia, led by Saakashvili, to reignite civil war with South Ossetia, and then to attack Russian peacekeepers there, to force Moscow to get engaged. And that's exactly what happened. And since that moment, we are observing extreme levels of demonization of Russia. Exactly from that point on, West is going. Hostility of the West is absolutely unprecedented. It's on steroids, right? more assets being deployed there by Pentagon towards Iran, and also there are reports that Trump sent their floating hospital to Greenland, and they come up with this another false narrative that this hospital gonna serve Greenlandians that are not receiving assistance from Denmark, which is total nonsense, by the way, right? United States has sent floating hospital to Greenland to treat local residents. President Donald Trump announced we are sending a large hospital ship to Greenland to treat the sick who cannot be treated there. He wrote in through social, and yet again, this is a deception operation, of course. These kind of statements that they are sending this vessel to help locals. In reality, of course, U.S. Pentagon is preparing to receive big number of casualties, potentially, once they will launch military operation against Iran, and they need to bring her closer to Iran as many hospitals, as many medical assets as they possibly can, and of course, mostly if and when casualties will occur among U.S. militaries, they will be flown through Europe, continental part of it, Germany first of all, right? Then UK, and I think this vessel, this hospital ship, will be stationed in Greenland for a day or two, maybe a week or two, and eventually it will move to Mediterranean, right? It will move to Mediterranean, close to Greece, maybe Cyprus or Turkey, right? To receive injured American pilots or naval staff, right? That's what is going on. Greenland is just yet another false agenda that they are coming up with, but clearly they are preparing to receive a significant number of casualties, as they should, by the way, because I think there is a high probability that Western ruling class will fail. Western ruling class will fail to provoke civil war between Persians and Azerbaijanis. They will succeed most likely with their Belujis and their Kurds. Probably there is a high probability of that, I think, because they have already weaponized these ethnic groups against Iran before. But Persians and Azerbaijanis, that's a different story. There is a high probability that they would not succeed in provoking war between them. And in that case, they will face truly serious resistance from Iranian people. And entire this U.S. Israeli or Western Israeli military operation against Iran might turn out to be total disaster for all of them, for everybody involved, including Israel and US, Bob. So yeah, they are getting ready to receive casualties, and of course there is a lot of deception, a lot of false narratives or deception elements in the Western media. By the way, they are pushing. I don't know why they are pushing now this idea that US gonna strike on the political leadership of Iran. They might attack or try to assassinate supreme leader of Iran, his family members. They will try to kill Iran's supreme leader and to kill religious leadership of Iran, and not just them. I mean, why this information should be like surprise to anybody? Of course, Western ruling class will go ahead with their attempt to decapitate Iran. Right, so they will attack religious leadership of country, they will attack political leadership of country, they will attack military leadership of country, but this attack's not going to be focused on Tehran alone. In order to create a power vacuum, they will have to go ahead and attack religious leadership, political leadership, military leadership throughout the country, in provinces, right? Throughout country, and that will demand and that's why US is deploying this many assets, brother. Because to be able to come up with so many attacks, you need a lot of planes, you need a lot of munition, by the way, right? And they are preparing. So yeah, they're gonna be decapitation strike, and simultaneously they're gonna attack throughout Iran on any state institution they can possibly attack, right? To create this power vacuum and force different groups of people to fight each other to fulfill this vacuum. Hopefully they will fail, man. Hopefully Western ruling class will fail, and hopefully Washington would not be able to succeed in their attempt to lure Russia into this trap of some agreements in regards to Ukrainian crisis, and hopefully Russia and China and all the other countries that are for humanity will do whatever is necessary to not just defend Iran, but to defend the Middle East from a major destabilization, because we cannot afford this. We just cannot afford Western ruling class to succeed there. Few more news. How long is this live stream, man? Let me check. By the way, how long is this live stream? It's 1.5 hours already, and well, let's finalize a couple of more news, dear friends. Muslim states condemned U.S. envoy over remarks on Israel's biblical rights. You know, dear friends, Tucker Carlson, U.S. journalist Tucker Carlson, had an interview with their U.S. ambassador to Israel, Michael Huckabee, who is more like Israeli propagandist than an American diplomat, because everything he does and says is serves Israel and Zionists and not the U.S. people and people's interest. My personal opinion, but that's how it looks like, by the way, from far away, right? And so Tucker Carlson had an interview with Huckabee when he was fleeing Israel. After the interview, he flew to Israel, took this interview with Huckabee, and when he was flying back, he was detained for a number of hours. His staff members were detained. One person was detained for, if I remember correctly, for 10 hours or something. They were questioned about this interview with Huckabee. It was a harassment from Israeli side. It was pure harassment of Tucker Carlson to put fear in him, right? And maybe they succeeded. I don't know. Maybe they did, by the way. But a few days ago, day before yesterday, I believe, Tucker Carlson published this interview, and I did not watch it full, just a little fragments. I did not watch it because I cannot withstand this kind of humanity that Huckabee is and represents. These are Epstein class, right? And I cannot, man. I cannot watch those animals talking. It's just, I mean, these are despicable elements, right? And it's too much, man, to give any attention to this. Unfortunately, I'm based on my work, I have to pay some attention to whatever they say or do, but это тошнотворные животные, man, I can tell you. These are sickening freaking animals, man, that, you know. But during that interview, Huckabee went into some biblical stuff and said that, well, God gave land almost entire Middle East to Israel. Which God, man? Really? Which God? What kind of Christians are these American Epstein class elements, man? Are they truly Christians? Because I don't think so. Something, of course, they are wrong, by the way. They might call themselves Christians. I'm Orthodox Christian, and I believe we are the Christians, right? Orthodox people. We acknowledge that there are mistaken directions in Christianity, Catholics, and there are all sorts of Protestants. They are mistaken big time, right? But once we will get to other world, let all of us answer to questions that we will face, right? It's not up to me to judge anybody for their beliefs, but of course we believe, Orthodox Christians, that we are the Christians. And more so because look what the heck is going on in the US, by the way. These evangelists, or whatever they call themselves, man, they love Israel. They hate everyone else, including Christians. And they call themselves Christians, man. What? This is not quite right, man, right? On so many levels, man. On so many levels. But yeah, it is what it is, man. And this Huckabee went to say that, yeah, God said that he is giving all this land to Israel. Really? Which God, man? My God did not say nothing like that. But their God may be, you know? So Arab and Muslim majority countries have condemned U.S. ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, for arguing that Israel has biblical right to much of the Middle East. In an interview with Tucker Carlson released on Friday, Huckabee, Baptist minister and a self-described Christian Zionist, I mean, what the heck is that even? I mean, Christian Zionist? You are not Christian, man. You are animal, Huckabee. That's it, man. You are no Christian. Fuck you, man. And everybody that thinks like you. Fucking animal. So in an interview with the Tucker Carlson released on Friday, this Huckabee animal said that it would be fine if Israel took territory stretching from the Nile to Euphrates. He later added that Israel is not seeking to expand its territory and has a right to maintain its security. Arab League, coalition of 22 member states, stunned their remarks as highly extremist, saying they are inconsistent with their fundamental principles and norms of diplomacy. And yet again, man, these are not Christians. Anybody that says that God chose Jewish people and God chose Israel, and I mean that's the only thing matters, and the rest is just nothing. No, man, this is not Christianity. Anyone can interpret Bible any way they want, but I believe God will never choose no one people over the others. It's impossible because God is absolute kindness, right? So God is not choosing no one above others. Not possible. Not possible. Just that's it, man, right? So anybody says that God chose this group or that group is a liar. And that's it, man. And God did not give no Israel nothing. Nothing, by the way. Right? Nothing. Period. There is no freaking country in this world that has some biblical rights on anything. Total nonsense. Right? Total freaking nonsense. And I'm struggling to understand how come that in 21st century we are allowing these psychopaths, by the way, right, to poison people with this nonsense. How this is even possible, man, right? I don't know. But of course, Huckabee is also lying that when saying that, well, Israel has no ambitions to conquer any territory. That's exactly what they do since the creation. They are killing innocent people and taking their land. That's what Israel does since the day of its creation. Even before Israel was creation, Israeli terrorist groups were terrorizing and mass killing the people, Palestinians, right? And also, and when I say Palestinians, Muslims and Christians, by the way. One should keep in mind that one of the oldest Christians in this world, if we care about Christians, one of the oldest Christians in this world are living there in Palestine. And these Israeli fascists were killing them too and continue to do so. How many churches there burned down, man, in Gaza Strip alone? So it's crazy, man. I don't know. I don't know how this is even can be, but yeah, we are living in a world when these freaking psychopaths, literally mentally ill elements, are allowed to be in a position of power and to basically poison and destroy lives of millions and billions of people, man, worldwide. When humanity gonna get together and then say that, you know what, Western elites, so-called Western elites, are evil force and has to be exterminated, man. I mean, when we as a humanity gonna get together and say that Western so-called elites are evil force, satanic force, by the way, and has to be exterminated, because that's what has to be done, by the way, right? We cannot ignore this what is going on, isn't it? It's crazy, man. It's crazy. I don't know, man. Something is big time wrong with this world, man, with this freaking matrix or whatever it is. Pakistan, meanwhile, confirms it carried out airstrikes against 7 terrorist camps in Afghanistan. Islamabad says the strikes were retaliation for a series of deadly terrorist attacks on Pakistan, causing Afghan government to deny use of its soil to terrorists. And well, this is going to be regular story, by the way, between Afghanistan and Pakistan for years to come. These cross-border strikes on each other, because well, Pakistan is in big trouble. By the way, there are borderline areas with Afghanistan that are mainly inhabited by Pushtun people, right? These are Iranian-speaking people, as majority of Afghans are, and these people never acknowledge the existence of any border there, right? Also, there is a third of Pakistan, basically, almost a third of Pakistan, and some might even argue that more than a third is being claimed by Baluchi people, right? And they are engaged in an armed struggle against Islamabad to gain independence, and they are also operating in Iran and conducting some terrorist attacks every now and then. And so, and then there is a other part of society there in the Pakistan, right, which is also mainly Sunni Muslims, but is also divided. So Pakistan is in big trouble. Pakistan is in big trouble. This is an artificially created entity, obviously. You know by whom? By Brits, right? By British Empire. And I mean, it's matter of time, and this artificial creation will be dissolved. It cannot exist for long, man, this way. But until Pakistan exists, they're gonna be constant cross-border skirmishes and attacks between Afghanistan and the Pakistan, and eventually Pakistan gonna lose, because that's how it is, man. Pakistan is destined to be disintegrated, to undergo full-scale disintegration. It's absolutely inevitable, and hopefully this process will go down as peacefully, although this is hardly possible. And one should keep in mind, Pakistan is nuclear power. They have, I don't know, 70, 80 nuclear warheads, maybe even more, which is a lot, which is plenty, by the way, especially if some of those warheads end up in hands of some freaking mentally ill elements, right? And I'm not quite sure Pakistan leadership is mentally healthy people either. So extremely dangerous stuff, man. And I don't know. It was a grave mistake on part of China, of course, to assist Pakistan with nuclear weapons. And it was not just China, it was the Western world, by the way, that assisted Pakistan to become nuclear power. Uh, yeah. With India, I have no issues, by the way. Nuclear India does not threaten me. I don't think India poses an existential threat to this world, no matter how many nuclear weapons they have. But with Pakistan, I'm not so sure, man, because Pakistan leadership is clearly inadequate, right? Clearly inadequate people, man, and they're extremely dangerous. Personal opinion, yet again, you might agree with me or you might not, but that's what I think. Also, I have to mention, of course, that Supreme Court in US ruled on tariffs and make it clear that these Trump's tariffs were all illegal, by the way, all of it, right? And Trump was very much upset about this, and he went to say that, okay, I mean, if Supreme Court is saying that based on this and this and this law, he could not impose tariffs, he will use then another laws and will impose tariffs anyways, and tariffs are staying. Tariffs not just are staying, by the way, but now under the different law judicial justification, at least until Supreme Court will go through that also and the rules that this is also illegal. So all the tariffs are staying, and then Trump went to say that he is imposing 10% additional tariffs on top of existing ones on whole world, on every country in this world, by the way. And he didn't chill on that. I guess he was very, very much upset. And shortly after, he went to write that no, 10% is good, but not enough. So it's going to be 15% now. So on top of existing tariffs, Trump is imposing another 15%. At least that's what is known for now. Tomorrow he might say, no, it was too much and stuff like that. With Trump, you never know. But for now, this decision of Supreme Court in US kind of backfired on countries that have truly big volume of trade with US and also on US citizens, because eventually it's US citizens that are gonna pay more, right? And I believe trade deficit, despite all these tariffs and stuff that Trump is coming up, trade deficit in 2025 was 900 billion. I believe trade deficit was 900 billion, something like that. So did these tariffs actually help US to deal with trade deficit? No, not really. They are forcing, most likely, and most definitely, they are forcing some companies from all over the world, especially from Europe, to move their manufacturing plants to US. Yes, process is happening. And many companies, dozens of companies, maybe hundreds, are actually investing in US to build manufacturing plant there so that they would not have to increase prices on their products due to these tariffs. But in general terms, when your trade deficit is still thinking 900 billion, then probably you are doing something wrongly. And your tariff war is not really working as expected, isn't it? But, it is what it is. And also some interesting news, by the way, here. And I will end new segment on that, that United States may play a key role in potential resumption of Nord Stream pipeline work. German daily Rheinliner Zeitung reported, citing sources, according to Daily, Washington might start delivering the Russian natural gas to Europe again, hoping to expand the United States' control over their energy infrastructure in the region. The German Daily reports that negotiations, which are close to the public and the media, are allegedly underway on the possible resumption of a Nord Stream pipeline work. And as I said, by the way, US will try hard. US will try hard, man, to lure Russia into this trap, right? They will make numerous promises. I mean, American ruling class. They will also push Kyiv regime to agree on certain concessions before Russia, so that in next 2 3 weeks, next several weeks, let's say, uh, there will be some ceasefire in place, right? Some agreement, which yet again can be presented as a actual peace or whatever. But unfortunately, I don't believe that globalists will allow sustainable peace to happen. But I think Washington will do whatever it can uh, to uh, come up with some agreements with Moscow to keep Russia out of Middle Eastern escalation as much as possible, right? And one of the ways how Washington might try to please Moscow can be this direction, that US companies probably will buy gas here in Russia, and then they might even buy this remaining working pipe of Nord Stream pipelines. There was a four pipelines, isn't it? Three were destroyed. One is potentially can be operational, right? And so maybe US will buy this pipeline, and there are also gas in Russia, and then transit this gas as American gas to Europe. This will of course bring some additional cash to Moscow. This will benefit American side also to further increase its leverage over there, Europe. And yes, I can see that uh, Washington can come up with quite a number of ideas, yet again, to please Moscow somehow, for time being, by the way, right? To keep Russia out of Middle Eastern story. And yeah, one of the direction could be Nord Stream pipelines. Also, Washington might promise that they will invest heavily into some energy projects in Arctic, into this field and that field. And after all, the rumors are circulating that allegedly Moscow and Washington were talking about some projects worth up to 14 trillion, which is quite a lot, isn't it? So, yet again, they might try to mislead Russia with all sorts of promises. But if we agree, if Moscow agrees to stay out of this Middle Eastern story, and if this world, by the way, not just Moscow or Beijing, but if humanity allows Western ruling class to succeed with their destabilization of Iran, with destabilization of entire Middle East, to shut down navigation then in the Persian Gulf and through Hormuz Strait, then I think that will be a fatal mistake for everybody, for all of humanity, because yet again, I mean, end goal of Western ruling class is extremely dangerous for all of us, man. Um, it is what it is. I have spoke about this matter so many times that I don't think there is any need to go into details again. But in case, sir, you have any questions, sir, about this matter or any other, because new segment is finished, just use capital letters, and I will react on your questions. By the way, right? A new segment is over on that, and if you like the program, by the way, please click that like button. Might be very helpful. For whatever reason, I think if there is a 500 likes under the video and more, algorithm is um, not as extreme, not as hostile, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. By the way, that's been said. Let me let me right now, dear friends, thank Dominic. Dominic, thank you very much for your supporter and $30 donation through PayPal. I appreciate your support. And comment from Dominic is thank you, Levan, for true journalism. Thank you very much for your kind words and support. Thank you, Dominic. And let me check right now. Uh, Rumble. There is no super chat on Rumble, or rant as it called there, and there was also no questions or comments through uh, Boosty. And okay, yeah, I said I yes, I already thanked Dominic for $30 donation through PayPal. And dear friends, I'm scrolling now. As I said, if you want to have a discussion about any topic, by the way, um, yes, Emer Blamo is commenting 14 trillion that no one talked about. Yes, I mean, officially, what I can say you is that Peskov was asked about the matter, and he said that, of course, during these talks with the American side, all sorts of topics are discussed, right? He did not went into in detail. He just confirmed that, yes, there is a talks about potential economical cooperation between the sides, between US and Russia, but all these talks, all these ideas are related to time after this war will end, right? After this proxy war ends that West is waging against Russia. So it's all speculations at this point. Some say talks are about some projects that worth combined 12 trillion, some say 14 trillion. It's speculations at this point, for sure. Wu Yan is commenting the real damage of tariffs was to America's reliability as a trading partner. No one, including their closest allies, trust America anymore. Remove them now won't change that. I have to agree with you, Wu Yan, because this is not normal, of course. This is not normal when through several hours, it was yesterday, isn't it? Through several freaking hours, Trump first come up with a 10% additional tariff on whole world, on every country in this world. And then with he changed his mind, he come up with 15% on top of already existing tariffs. I mean, this is not the way serious countries to operate. I mean, it's nonsense, right? This is nonsense. What is happening? Nothing to be said about systemic problems that US is facing, because if president is insulting and ignoring, sort of humiliating its own judicial system, Supreme Court, by the way, right? In this particular case, then what that tells you about actual situation in the country. This is not okay, man. You cannot go around and mock your own judges and mock your own state institutions, right? This is not the way for anybody, right? For any country. So yes, US are harmed tremendously itself with these crazy trade wars and tariff wars, but that's the path they choose, actually. Nidish Kumar is commenting, Levan, did you see what's going on in Nigerian villages? I think government itself is allowing it to happen. Well, when it comes to Nigeria, it's tragedy, of course, what is going on there, and well, Christians definitely are not safe, to say the least, right? I would not say necessarily that government is committing some organized attacks against Christians. From what I learned on the matter in Nigeria, by the way, this is basically not necessarily religious stuff that is going on, but this is tribalist stuff that is going on. There is tribes that happen to be Muslims, that have a lot of cattle, right? And there are tribes that happen to be Christians in certain areas of Nigeria that have territory, land, right? And there are not that many cattle. And one tribe wants to use this land, and another is refusing. And their confrontation is based on these matters, not necessarily uh, on religion, right? That's what I learned. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there are certain groups in Nigeria that actually are, intentionally attacking people based on their religion, but and probably there are some groups like that. But generally speaking, this confrontation in Nigeria is based on some economical, more like tribalist and economical issues than religious issues. But definitely, things are escalating there and will further escalate because U.S. not just conducting strikes, but U.S. is also deploying its military assets, and that means that these military assets are just like 2 weeks ago, there was a report that U.S. is going to deploy a couple of hundreds of its troops, 100 plus, and what these troops going to do there? They're going to secure CIA stuff, right? That will conduct all the drone attacks and all sorts of dodgy operations. These Pentagon troops, these troops that Pentagon is deploying, basically are security for CIA operatives. And CIA, you know what CIA does, isn't it? They will try to destabilize Nigeria further. And why is that? Because US is losing competition to China. US is losing competition throughout the world, right, to China. And one way that US is moving now to deal with China is to deny access. How are they going to deny access to China? Destabilize the country, destabilize their region. And that's exactly what US is engaged in, destabilization, right? When they can establish total control, they will go ahead with that. They did it in Venezuela. And I'm afraid they will do it in Cuba. And when it comes to Cuba, by the way, there are reports, I forgot to mention this during the news segment, that Russia has sent oil tanker to Cuba. Let's see if Russia will manage to break into this embargo that US has imposed on Cuba. I don't know where exactly that tanker is right now, but I guess in next week or so we will learn something about it. So dear friends, please use either capital letters or capital Q, so that I will understand that your comment, you want to highlight this commenter. Also, Nitish Kumar is commenting, Levan, they paid a lot of ransom to these gangs upon every attack, not to attack. You mean in Nigeria? As I said, one way that US can deny access to China because they are losing competition, well, they are going ahead with destabilization, right? And they're going to destabilize. And Nigeria, by the way, is an oil-rich country. It has a lot of other resources, but it's an oil-rich country, so it's a big deal. Yet again, dear friends, if you want to, I'm no longer gonna call this Sunday live streams fundraising, but in case you want to support, by the way, you're more than welcome, of course. You can donate to this project if you like my work through PayPal, through Boosty platforms. Links are on this video description box. You can subscribe to my Patreon page or page on Boosty. It will be great support, of course, also. And during the streams, when I'm live right now, for example, you can use super chat or round feature on Rumble and also become a premium subscriber on Rumble. By the way, everything counts, of course, uh, to maintain this project, obviously. And many thanks to everybody, by the way. Many thanks to everybody who supported and continues to support and keeps me in this field of news and political commentary. Daniel is commenting, I'm later to the show. Greenland does not need help with their healthcare as it's free. Plus, right now, those two hospital ships are in dock in the US for repairs. Yet again, I mean, I said it straight away that if US will deploy these vessels, not really to treat locals there in Greenland, but to basically move their vessels, medical infrastructure, basically as much as they can towards closer to Middle East to receive basically wounded staff, wounded military personnel, and usually, from Middle East, wounded personnel is flown to Germany, right? Germany is going to be first place, although many other NATO member states also, of course, and their deployment of vessels, hospital vessels, could be helpful. But I agree with you absolutely. Greenlanders definitely don't need U.S. assistance in terms of healthcare, man. Definitely not. So I agree with you 100%. DNIY is commenting, Levan, your PayPal is not going through. Is there a problem with it? No, just few minutes ago, Dominic donated $30. So, I don't know. It's my wife's PayPal, by the way. So when you click the link, you will go to page that belongs to my wife. I personally don't have PayPal, so she's helping me with that. So it's her PayPal account, but it works. I don't know. Maybe if you make some error one during when you're filling the form, if you make some mistake there, it might not go through, but her page itself is working properly. So I don't know what's. It depends. I mean, if you are trying to use all the one, when I was it was a Magda, Magda, our moderator. I used to use ask Magda for assistance. So like a year ago or something, I was using her PayPal, but now for last year, isn't it? At least for last year, I'm using my wife's PayPal account, Anna's account. So check in make sure that you are using right link under this video in description box. Just click there and you will go directly to page. So, right now, Luke donated right now, for example, through PayPal. So it works. A few minutes ago, Dominic donated. Now Luke donated. Luke, thank you very much for $10 donation through PayPal. And there, it's NSPK77. Thank you very much for your donation through PayPal. Thank you. So it works. Also, Nidish Kumar is commenting, Levan, I think Bangladesh is back on the track after elections. They are saying Yunus will run away. Well, if I mean, Bangladesh only has a chance to succeed with good relationships with India. Bangladesh basically exists because of the India, right? And I mean, it's suicidal if Dhaka, isn't it, capital of Bangladesh, man? Let me check. There's so many freaking capitals in this world. Just a sec. It's Dhaka, yes, right. So it will be a fatal mistake for Dhaka to confront India, to distance from India, because and they should understand India has a friend. It's not just about India, but India also has a friends, and friends that will invest in Bangladesh only because of India. And Russia is one of those countries, by the way. And Russia is investing in Bangladesh, for example, in nuclear program and this and that. I think only because, and these projects are dating back before unrest and coup d'etat basically happened there, isn't it? So I think Russia get involved in Bangladesh mainly because of India. And if Dhaka is now or ever will distance from itself from India, then one might assume that Russia would not be that keen, right, to cooperate with a country that is hostile to a strategical ally. And India is, of course, strategical ally, by the way. There might be some issues here and there between Moscow and New Delhi, but we are strategical allies, and that's it. So all the neighbors of India should keep that in mind. That if they confront India, they are confronting simultaneously with numerous other countries. But if Dhaka is back now on a track of adequacy, that's great news. But I don't know, man. Avalanche is commenting, hey Levan, are you familiar with the Konstantin, Russian dude that constantly bashing Russia on the net? Konstantin? Who is Konstantin? I don't know. If someone is pushing anti-Russian narratives, by the way, I mean, I would not use that stronger language that, necessary. I would not call them necessarily traitors. Maybe some people just misunderstood life, right? But if someone claims to be Russian citizen and supports this evil force that Western elites are, then, well, I will argue that something is wrong with them, man. You can be critical of certain policies, for example, right? And I am, by the way. When I don't understand something, I always say that I don't understand this or I don't understand that. But there is no way, by the way, I'm ever gonna support or justify criminal actions of the Western elites, man. It's just impossible, right? So you have to be always pro-Russian. If you are a Russian citizen, you have to be pro-Russian. And which politician do you support, which don't? It's secondary. No one cares, man. No one cares. First and foremost, you are a Russian citizen. You are for Russian people, for Russia, right? And I expect similar attitude from citizens of US to have in regards to their country. If you are a US citizen, be US citizen, be for US, right? And care what is best for US. If you are a citizen of UK, be a good citizen, by the way. Be patriot of your country. That's the only correct way to live your life, by the way. I'm a Russian citizen now, correct? And I'm going to try my best to be as good citizen as I possibly can, man. That's the right way. And I don't know who you mean, because, from Russia, there is my channel in the news and political commentary segment. There is my channel and Kapionix channel, right? That's two of us, really, that's still not being blocked, at least completely. We are in shadow ban, I believe. Not just my channel is in shadow ban on steroids, but Kapionix channel is also in shadow ban. And when it comes to this daily updates and stuff, very active work in this field, the news and political commentary, I don't think there is there might be, maybe I'm not remembering now, but I don't know who you mean by Konstantin. I don't know. But yet again, if you are citizen of Russia, be patriot of Russia, right? If you are citizen of US, be patriot of US, by the way. And this is the only way to go forward. It does not matter who you support politically, which politician, which political party. This is all secondary stuff. When your country is under attack, you have no right, by the way, to not to support unity inside the country, right? Because unity is extremely important. And there are many people probably on the internet that claims to be Russians. Most of them probably are actually from Q-controlled territory, and they might claim that they are Russians. They speak fluent Russian, by the way, because they are ethnically, most of them are Russians, right? Just brainwashed ones. And they might claim to be Russian citizens and do some crazy stuff, but there was right now, dear friends, there was Mark, thank you very much for your donation through PayPal. Marker is commenting, okay, Levan, I find the right PayPal. Thank you very much for your support, Mark. Thank you. Also, Nidish Kumar is commenting, Levan, did Iran receive any early warning aerial platforms? Don't think so. If you mean AWACS type of planes, I have some doubts that either Russia or China transferred this type of aircraft, because it's extremely expensive and they're extremely vulnerable. Also, this type of planes can be effectively used when you can provide aerial protection to the plane, right? And I don't think Iran's air force is capable of protecting these early warning aircrafts, for example. So therefore, probably Iran did not receive the plane itself, but what I also believe is that Iran is receiving intelligence about movement of U.S. and Israeli aircraft and the naval assets in a region in real time, most likely from both countries, Russia and China. And I believe China, by the way, has deployed one of its most advanced surveillance vessel into a region. And Chinese are operating in quite interesting ways. They are, through different means, not officially, but through different means, they are publishing on internet through third parties, let's say, real-time intelligence data, satellite pictures, by the way, of U.S. bases in the Middle East, with high resolution, right? High resolution pictures, when you can see exactly how many and what type of planes are located and what kind of vessels are located in which area. So if this is done publicly, then you can imagine what other information Iran is receiving through close means, right? So intelligence not going to be issue for Iran. I think focus of Tehran has to be on unity, internal unity, because it's just too freaking obvious, that Western ruling class wants to create power vacuum and to force basically different ethnic groups to get engaged into civil war, right? And they will succeed only if they will manage to provoke civil war between Persians and Azerbaijanis. They can weaponize Kurdish people because they have done it before, right? They can weaponize their some, not all Kurdish society, of course, of Iran, no, but they can weaponize certain part of Kurdish minority. They can certainly weaponize certain part of Baluchi minority, but this would be some regional turbulences, right, for Iran. Only way you can actually descend Iran into full-scale civil war is if there are confrontation between Persians and Azerbaijanis, and to have a better chances on provoking the conflict between these two, US and Israel, they have to eliminate any existence of state in Iran, throughout Iran, not just in Tehran, by the way, but throughout Iran. They have to create absolute power vacuum. And you can imagine necessary volume of attacks that is need to be done to eliminate, to delay basically any existence of state. And that's why US has not launched attacks already. They have not enough assets, by the way. They will bring in third aircraft carrier for sure. Already rumors began, by the way, that US is actually planning to send another one. They will send their assault vessels that have this wide open deck. They will send everything they can, but they will literally send everything they can, right, to sustain this high level of attacks. So right now, Israel can come up with about 200-300 planes, right? And US can come up with also 200-300 planes right now, as of 22nd of February. a lot of planes, right? Combined number of U.S. Israeli aircraft is about 500 plus. Um, but and there also U.S. can right now, because about third of its navy is already there, including Arleigh class destroyers, also submarines, attack submarines that are equipped with launchers of the Tomahawk missiles. Right now, US can launch probably in matter of hours, maybe 500 Tomahawk missiles. But it sounds big, isn't it? It sounds big, but still, by the way, to create full-scale power vacuum, full-scale uh, to delay state from Iran, state institutions, this is just a drop in the ocean. This is just a drop in the ocean. One should keep in mind that US only has like few thousand Tomahawk missiles. Even if they will use all of it, it would not be enough. It's not even close, really, right? Especially when you know that Iran most definitely dispersed its infrastructure, uh, political infrastructure, security everything most definitely are dispersed now as much as possible, right? So even if US launches throughout the week, let's say, or 2 weeks, all of its 3 to 5,000 Tomahawk missiles, I don't know exactly how many they have, but if it's 5,000, let's say, it's not going to be enough, man. When it comes to air power, okay, US will most likely deploy third aircraft carriers. And overall, US and Israel, maybe with the assistance of UK and France, they will be able to use 500 planes, right? On initial stages, at least, for attacks. But in a week after attacks began, number of these planes, battle-capable planes, will drop at least 20%. Every week, by the way, number of sorties will inevitably drop because, yet again, we are talking about Western aircraft, by the way, extremely engineered, right? For every 1 hour of flight, these planes need dozens of hours of maintenance work. This is big, man. So I don't think either Israel or US can deploy, for example, 10 conductor, 10 sorties with any given plane, non-stop, like take off, bomb, come back, take off, get loaded, take off. I don't think either Israel or US has any plane that can do 10 sorties like that. Not possible, right? And Iran is massive. As Ukraine, Soviet Ukraine was massive, by the way, right? And how many sorties Russian Air Force conducted? How many thousands of sorties since the beginning of special military operation? How many missiles Russia deployed? Thousands, right? Thousands. And the Kiev regime is still able to produce some weapons, still able to have electricity, and their state institutions still exist. Yes, one might argue that's because Moscow did not actually target decision-making centers and stuff. Okay, but you know, I think there is a high probability that this attack on Iran might turn their absolutely disastrous for Western ruling class and Israel. And because numeral West and Israel does not has this numerical advantage, or let's say does not really have a enough conventional means, military assets to achieve total power vacuum in Iran, total destruction of their statehood in Iran. One should not be surprised at all if either Israel or US will deploy tactical nukes. None of us should be surprised if they will at some point deploy tactical nukes, maybe even from the beginning, because numbers are not on their side, man. Yesterday, I saw a report that Iran is already deploying its long-range interceptor systems. I mean, Iran gonna give a fight. Iran gonna give a fight. Haim Amolinen is commenting Kasparov and Khodorkovsky are traitors. Yes, they are. I agree with you. In this particular case, I think both Khodorkovsky and Kasparov are assets of the Western Secret Services, so they literally are traitors. They literally are traitors, by the way. I'm 100% convinced in that. Everyone who has any connection with the secret services of foreign country are traitors. Period. There is nothing to discuss, and I have no doubts whatsoever that these individuals that you mentioned are assets of the Western secret services. So they are traitors for sure. But recent question from a member of community was about someone named Konstantin. So because I don't know who that Konstantin is, I cannot have a strong opinion on that particular person. But these ones, Kasparov and Khodorkovsky, these are traitors, by the way. These are Western assets, assets of the Western secret services. I have no doubts about it. And they should be brought back to Russia and they're put on trial and let the judges decide, right? Let their investigators bring all the evidences and let the judges decide, right? But my personal opinion is that they are traitors, for sure. Very, well, very important topic that Jeremy is touching here. Before I react, Jeremy, just a sec. Let me highlight that. Let me highlight her super chat. The friend from Rumble. Just a sec. So thank you very much, Dimodos Carter, for Diana. Thank you very much, Daniela. Sorry, thank you very much for your super chat and kind words and $5 donation through super chat on Rumble. And comment is thanks for your honest journalism. Thank you very much. I appreciate your kind words. Truly grateful, and that's what makes me happy. By the way, when people when people appreciate my work. By the way, that's greatest price, isn't it? When you're trying, when you work, and when people like it, it's great. Thank you very much, Daniela. Thank you. And let's now talk about this comment from Jeremy, and he's commenting. I don't get it either, because during the World War II and World War One, it was Russia united that saved each other. What the F is there? How does one become its own enemy? Brothers versus brothers. Well, that's the civil war. That's why I'm saying that this conflict It definitely has elements of civil war in it. Russians are fighting Russians, yes. Unfortunately, Western ruling class, British leadership, German leadership, others, they succeeded in brainwashing millions of people in Ukraine, right, in the Kiev-controlled territory. And this process of brainwashing dates back centuries, by the way. This is not something like new that only began 10 years ago or 20 years ago. I believe it was the first British aristocracy that came up with ideas some 200 years ago, by the way, that to weaken Russia, they have to put in their people that live in Ukraine. Ukraine is a geographical name of the territory, right? Ukraine in Polish. This name is coming from Poland, by the way, right? Ukraine, the Poles were occupying significant parts of modern Ukraine during Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. It was an empire, basically, that was challenging everybody, including Russia. And at one point, they were able to even occupy Moscow for a little while, right? And so they went to occupy these significant parts of modern Ukraine, and they were calling this area Ukraine, outskirt. It was an outskirt of a Polish Empire, let's say. And first, few centuries ago, British aristocracy came up with the idea that they will weaken Russia big time if they will put in the heads of these people that live in this outskirt of Polish Empire that they are not Russians, but they are Ukrainians, different ethnic group. Then, and they began pushing this narrative through their means, and as I already said, by the way, Polish elites were always happy to serve their British masters. I don't know what the hell is wrong with the Polish elites, why they are this fixated being prostitutes of they're British pimps, but they love to be British prostitutes, man. This is phenomenon in Poland, that Polish elites love to be prostitutes for Brits. And so, of course, UK, not UK, but there was no UK then. Of course, Britain did manage to push this narrative, right, through their area. Then, after some time, Germans joined them, right? And Bismarck, for example, I believe publicly was saying that if you want to weaken Russia, that's exactly what you're going to do. You have to push this idea of political Ukrainianism. And even more people were brainwashed in the territories that Poles were calling during their occupation Ukraine, right? And then Second World War happened, right? And under the German occupation, German Third Reich basically weaponized these brainwashed elements, and elements that were considering themselves to be not the Russians, not the Poles, not Hungarians, but ethnic Ukrainians, these Ukrainian Nazis. They weaponized them. There was divisions, right? Galichina and so on, SS divisions, by the way. And they were committing unbelievable atrocities against Poles, against the Russians, against everybody. Against Jews, by the way, against everybody. Even SS officers were horrified. Can you imagine that? SS was the most brutal formations in Third Reich, right? And even SS officers, based on unclassified documents now, I mean, we have learned that even SS officers were horrified by atrocities that these Ukrainian Nazis were committing, led by elements like Shukhevich, like Bandera, like some others, right? And so you see, this brainwashing process took centuries, but eventually they did manage to brainwash enough people that well, these Western elites were able to not just divide the Russian world, not just create tensions inside the Russian world, but even to provoke this civil war that we are facing right now. So it is true, brothers are fighting brothers, and in many cases, literally, one brother is on a Kiev controlled territory, being forcibly mobilized or something, and serving in their military, and another brother is in Russian military, and they're fighting these Ukrainian Nazis and the fascists, by the way. So you are absolutely correct. This is brothers against brothers. This is a civil war, and it's shame on us, by the way. Shame on all of us who considers to be part of Russian world that we somehow allow this to happen. Right? We should do whatever is necessary to block this brainwashing of their people on the Kiev controlled territory. We should be more effective to let them know what is true and what is nonsense, right? But we failed, unfortunately. And by we, I mean people that were actually in charge. I mean, me personally, what could I do, right? But me as a part of a Russian world, of course, I'm ashamed also that we end up in a civil war, man, and we are killing each other now. And unfortunately, millions of our brothers and sisters have been brainwashed, right? And are considering us to be their enemies, which is crazy. We don't consider them to be our enemies, by the way. You see different in attitude. We don't consider them to be our enemies. We don't hate people from Ukraine, man. No way. Some of them, not all of them, obviously, some of them actually have been brainwashed so much by this Western propaganda of political Ukrainianism that they actually hate us, man, which is crazy, though. But do you know that family, by the way, family of mother and father, and I believe even brother of head of general staff of Kiev regime, Sirsky, they live in Russia. Sirsky himself is a Russian. So, I mean, this is actually civil war, man. That Western elites, this evil force that Western elites are, they managed to provoke. This is crazy, man. This is crazy. But yeah, it's tragedy, man. It's tragedy what's going on, but you know. NSPK 777 is commenting, true, after World War II, the neo-Nazis found their happy home in NATO. I mean, it is true, yes. I mean, it's just factually accurate statement, by the way. And now many documents are declassified, and we all know that many Nazis, not just from Germany itself, by the way, but also, for example, from Ukraine, end up in NATO countries and were actively used against Soviet Union. After all, U.S. space program was led by whom? Von Braun, isn't it? Von Braun was father of missile program of Germany, Nazi Germany, right? And was guilty of death of thousands of innocent citizens of UK, by the way. London, first of all, that was primary target of FAL-1 and FAL-2 missiles. So he was a war criminal, 100%, but end up in US and very much respected, by the way, and eventually become in charge of NASA. And this is just one example out of thousands, right? Many Nazis end up in UK, in US, in other NATO member states, in Canada, by the way. You think why there is a massive Ukrainian diaspora in Canada? Who are those people, man? How they end up there? Most of the Canadian Ukrainians are descendants of Banderites that were evacuated by NATO, by Western allies, let's say, to their countries. And then many of those Nazis were used to infiltrate Soviet Union, by the way, and to destabilize Belarus, Ukraine. I remind you that Red Army was fighting Banderites in Ukraine and Belarus until late 50s. Until late 50s, by the way, Red Army and security services were still fighting those Banderites. You know? So yes, unfortunately, very many war criminals, Nazi war criminals, find their safe haven in Western countries. This is just factually accurate statement. Also, NSPK is commenting, if the Iran war should escalate, do you see Russia delivering Iran their most advanced missiles, or Oreshnik, Avangard, and maybe sending Russian personnel to operate it? No, not Oreshnik. Not Oreshnik, not Avangard. Because Oreshnik is a potentially nuclear capable weapon system, as Avangard is. So these weapons are not going to be deployed. I think one way or another, but Moscow, Russia, Iran will receive certain assistance from Russia through official means or unofficial, non-official, but Iran will definitely get some assistance, and already receiving assistance, by the way. After all, just a few days ago, I reported that in recent days, there was a number of flights of Russian IL-76 transport planes from southern Russia to Iran over the Caspian Sea and back, right? So Iran is already receiving assistance. And I think risk for Russia and China is so big if Western ruling class will succeed in its attempt to destabilize whole Middle East, not just Iran, but whole Middle East, and to shut down navigation in the Persian Gulf and through Hormuz Strait. Risk, if they succeed, is so tremendous, apocalyptic, actually, in my understanding, that we just cannot allow this to happen. Neither Moscow, neither Beijing can afford to stay away from this situation and to allow Western elites to succeed. So it's not really about Iran in this case. It's about safety and security of Russia and China and rest of the world, actually, too, I will add. So because risks are just absolutely tremendous, I think Iran will receive all the necessary assistance to withstand the pressure, to stay united and to withstand the pressure, whatever that assistance is going to be. If you remember, about a week ago, maybe a little more now, I shared better images of, for example, Mi-28 attack helicopters, right? And you might say, what good Mi-28 gonna do when Iran is under attack of US and Israel, and when there are no ground invasion? But well, Mi-28s, by the way, and many other weapons that Iran might receive may become very handy to deal with, for example, Beluji terrorist groups or Kurdish terrorist groups that will be activated simultaneously with attacks on Iran by Western and Israeli secret services, right? So this equipment, military equipment that will give Iran better capabilities on the ground is definitely something that is needed, right? So I think both Moscow and China will be focused in assistance, with assistance to Iran, will be focused on intelligence assistance and will be focused on assistance to maintain unity. First of all, between, of course, these two major ethnic groups, Azerbaijanis and Persians, because unfortunately Kurdish society and Baluchi society has been infiltrated big time by Western secret services and Israeli secret services. We all know that. So that's the main area of assistance, I think. Of course, air defense systems, radio electronic warfare, of course, will be provided and will play some role, but let's not make mistake. Iran gonna be pounded with the bombs, right? And only way Iran can win this fight if Tehran will not allow civil war to occur, right? That will be the win. That will be a victory for Iran if they will not allow civil war to occur, if they, through diplomatic means, through whatever means, but make it clear for Saudi Arabia not to get engaged against Iran under any circumstances, right? That will be also a victory because you know and I know, without ground invasion, US, Israel, and their allies not going to be able to achieve much or defeat Iran if they were unable to create this power vacuum and descend country into a civil war. So for Iran, by the way, I mean, all they have to do is withstand there approximately 2 months. Right? I don't think US has military capabilities to sustain high level of military pressure longer than 2 months, right? High level of airstrikes. So all Iran has to do is to withstand this first 2 months of attacks and to disperse its state infrastructure, state institutions, right? Disperse all the necessary infrastructure, so much so throughout the country that these massive aerial strikes of US will not be able to totally eliminate elements of system in a place, right? So that power vacuum would not emerge. And without power vacuum, there is no chance for a full-scale civil war. So I think main focus for Moscow, Beijing, and Tehran has to be unity, to be kept unity, by the way, in Iran, and to disperse state representation throughout the country, so much so that they cannot be eliminated by no matter how many strikes are conducted, right? They cannot allow power vacuum to emerge. And in that case, maybe it will take like months, 2, 3, but eventually US will be forced to seek negotiations, because they're not going to go ahead with the ground invasion, by the way. They're going to lose it, right? They're not going to go ahead with the ground invasion. This is not what their task of the Western ruling class is. They want whole region to be descended into war on ethnic and sectarian lines. They don't want to occupy Iran and establish some friendly regime or something. No, they want whole region to be destabilized, to shut down navigation in the Persian Gulf for years to come, for years, by the way, right? So That's how I think. Russia will provide assistance with intelligence, with weaponry, obviously also, but not with Oreshniks and avant-garde missiles. No, these are strategical weapon systems and cannot be, even if operated by Russian troops, just cannot be deployed in Iran. I don't think so. And that will indicate direct involvement of Russia, of course. It will be very difficult to maintain plausible deniability. On the other side, well, we all know that these ATACMS missiles that are launched against Russia, for example, are launched by American military personnel with involvement of American militaries, American intelligence. Although there is a massive difference between ATACMS and Oreshnik, of course. This is also true. But all Iran has to do is withstand these massive, absolutely massive strikes for months or two. I don't think either US or Israel gonna be able to sustain high level of military pressure, high level of attacks on Iran more than 2 months, right? And simultaneously, of course, Iran will try to harm hostile side as much as possible. And we don't know, by the way, what kind of maritime drones Iran has, how many aerial drones Iran has, right? And what is their range, how many missiles are operational, still ballistic missiles. Maybe it's thousands, maybe hundreds. We don't know. But Iran will definitely try to minimize military capabilities of hostile side with their retaliatory strikes, isn't it? And from what we learned from open sources, every US base in the Middle East is in range of Iranian missiles. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if Iran has maritime drones. That can be with a long range capabilities, and Iran definitely has aerial drones with long range capabilities. Aircraft carriers are stationed some 700 miles away or something from Iran, right? It's gonna be hard to reach those aircraft carriers. For now, it's Abraham Lincoln, isn't it? That is stationed some 700 miles away from Iran in Arabian Sea, right? And another one, Gerald Ford, is just entered the Mediterranean, so it will take approximately a week before it will pass Suez Channel, then Red Sea, and end up on the other side. And passing the Red Sea not going to be easy, by the way, for Abraham Lincoln, for Gerald Ford, isn't it? Because they're Houthi rebels. And who knows, man? I wouldn't be surprised at all if this aircraft carrier will be stationed somewhere around Cyprus without entering the Red Sea. Maybe, because even passing the Suez Channel might be a high-risk operation, because everyone understands, right, that this aircraft carrier is moving towards Iran to participate in attacks, and therefore either Iran's secret services or their allies, Houthis or whomever, they might actually ambush this aircraft carrier in that Suez Channel. By the way, it might happen. So maybe Gerald Ford will stay in the Mediterranean and will conduct operations from there. We will find out. But to answer your question on Oreshnik and avant-garde, I don't think there is even little chance that Russia will transfer either of these weapons or any other modern long-range weapon system to Iran to strike US assets. I don't think Iran even expects such assistance because it's too much to ask, really. It's too much to ask, but well, Russia will provide assistance in ways that Iran will be able to quickly adapt and use in its favor. And Nidish Kumar is asking, why is Kazakhstan so eager to send troops to Gaza? They can't even control their own unrest independently. Well, because Astana, by the way, is well, Astana, capital of Kazakhstan, is playing very strange games. By the way, they want to please just about everybody, right? And this kind of policy might work for some time, but it would not work for all the times. That's the one reason. They want to be on good terms with Washington, and because they are afraid, by the way. I mean, they might have some strategical reasoning behind it too, because Kazakhstan is bordering China. Kazakhstan is an oil-rich country, right? And in this game plan that I think Western ruling class is employing right now, in this strategy that is directed against China and Russia, Kazakhstan is also a target, potential target. And maybe Astana is just trying to kind of save itself as much as possible. I don't think this will work. I don't think this will work, but they are trying. They want to be on good terms with London. They want to be on good terms with US. After all, US energy companies have significant investments in Kazakhstan, right? And Caspian Pipeline Consortium is largely American business that is constantly targeted by London, by UK, by the way, through their proxies in Kiev. And so, yeah, that's the main reasoning, I think, that Kazakhstan leadership understands that they potentially are on the crossroads of confrontation, future confrontations, right, global ones, and they just want to save themselves and be on good terms with everybody as long as possible. And Kazakhstan has strong links with, as I said, with the West. Strong links, stronger connections, and if you go in Astana, by the way, you might be surprised to see architecture. You will think Astana is the capital of some country that was created by Masons, Freemasons. That is. So there is a lot of different things that's going on in regards to Kazakhstan, by the way, from secret organizations and so on, and their influence to many other things, right? So because I don't think I honestly don't think Kazakhstan leadership really cares about Palestinian people. I don't think so, because Astana was extremely careful or soft, let's say this way, soft on Israel, no matter what Israel was doing to Palestinians. So there is no that religious connection that, well, Palestinians are religious brothers of Kazakhstan. Kazakhstan is majority Sunni Muslim country, by the way, right? So I don't think Kazakhstan leadership really cares that much about Palestinians, but what they care about is to stay on good terms with just about everybody as long as possible. Just because I guess they think this is the safest way for them to survive right now. But yeah, I don't know. It might work today, it might work tomorrow, but they should know. They should know that Western ruling class, one of the ways Western ruling class is planning to attack China is to destabilize Central Asian republics, including Kazakhstan, right? To create uncontrolled areas on the border with China and then to infiltrate China with all sorts of extreme elements that Western secret services have trained in Idlib province of Syria, for example. Among them, thousands and thousands of ethnic Uyghur people from China. So there's lots going on there, isn't it? So maybe Astana thinks, well, if they are on good terms with Washington, you know, Western elites will leave Kazakhstan alone. But unfortunately, this strategy is a faulty one. Western ruling class has very different calculus on very different timeline, right, than Kazakhstani leadership might think. Good sir, Berserker is commenting at 15s, maybe, definitely not F-35s, hunger. I mean, maybe this is a comment. This is commenter in response to what I said about necessary maintenance of the Western, any fighter jets, really, right? It just happened that Soviet engineering school was a bit different than Western engineering school, and in Soviet Union and then in Russia, focused is on agility, right? And therefore, our planes are just built differently, right? They can take off almost from anywhere, literally, right? They can withstand tremendous level of pressure. That includes hours and hours and hours of work without major engineering work being done on the planes. But Western fighter jets are very different. They are built differently, right? They are all engineered. There is always something that is breaking down. Yes, F-15 can be called a workhorse of U.S. Air Force, but even F-15s, I don't think they are capable of doing 10 sorties without general breaks, without general breakdown. Nothing to be said about these latest ones, man. F-22s and their F-35s, no way. After every single sortie, F-22s will definitely have to undergo some 10, 20-hour maintenance program. F-35 the same, right? After all, there is a reason why only 30% or up to 30% of F-35 fleet is battle capable at any given point, right? These are garbage planes, not F-22s, by the way. F-22s should be good, actually good fighter jets, but F-35, no. But F-22s are just far fewer than F-35s, and then old ones. It's many people forget maybe that F-22s are like 30-year-old platforms, right? They constantly need maintenance. And for now, according to what I have read in open sources, US was only able to deploy like up to 3 dozen of F-22s, no more than that. Although overall number is about 180 or 190 or something, right? And those planes definitely, I mean, after every single sortie, they have to undergo numerous hours of maintenance work to be operational. F-35 definitely workhorse. F-16s must be also somewhere there. F-18s, FA-18s, by the way, aircraft-based ones also should be able to endure tremendous pressure, but only so much so. Only so much so. So therefore, and that's the reasoning why US is deploying so many aircraft, because they know they can come up with a massive wave of attack today, for one day, the next day, and after maximum week, by the way, number of sorties is going to start decreasing significantly. significantly. And Iran, to win this battle, all they have to do, by the way, is to maintain unity, dealt as much damage to hostile side as possible, and maintain unity, not to allow country to descend into civil war. And if they manage to do so, that means that in 2 3 months' time, max, I think U.S. will seek negotiations. Maybe earlier than that. Maybe after months of operations, U.S. will, Western ruling class will realize that they are unable to descend Iran into civil war. This strategy is not working. So maybe they will allow American ruling class, Washington, to get out of the conflict, and that is to seek negotiations with Tehran. We will see, but unfortunately, attack itself is absolute. I think is imminent. Maybe like 3 4 weeks from now, because second aircraft carrier is deployed to Mediterranean, right? They have to deploy another one. Maybe they already sent it and it's somewhere. Maybe this third one is getting closer to Iran. I don't know. Free aircraft. Once they will have free aircraft carrier, I think at that point any day attacks might be launched. But for now, they only have two, and this is if they launch attacks now. By the way, they will have even less chances to succeed. So they need third one and there may be fourth one, because they are undertaking tremendous operation, by the way, to descend Iran, this one of the oldest civilizations, into a civil war and total chaos. It's it's if it's even possible, by the way, it's a tremendously difficult task for any military, including US. Oh, it's already 3 hours, dear friends. We have a good chat, isn't it? We have a good chat. And of course, main topic of discussion nowadays worldwide is, this Ukrainian crisis is always a topic uh, since the beginning of special military operation. But nowadays, of course, Iran incoming Western Israeli war on Iran is definitely topic that everyone is talking about, and Luan, I disagree. US TACE are even worse. US I'm not sure I understand USTACSE. What is that? I don't understand this word, but USTACE. Hey, mom. Lennon is commenting. Levan, Russia is a central ear. That is why West hates Russia. Central ear, heartland. Russia is a heartland of a Eurasian continent. Maybe that's what you mean. And yeah, this might be a reason why Western elites hate Russia. But I will argue that Western elites hate just about everybody. not just Russia. It happened that we are neighbors, right? And so we have more. We had in the past more confrontations and wars, but they hate just about everybody because Western elites, Western ruling class, this generational so-called aristocracies, aristocratic families in Europe, they were almost in full control of entire world, almost entire world for 300 to 500 years. When they when they when all they do is issue orders, right? And they did not know what was no, because they had enough power to suppress any opposition from anybody. Practically, let's say, practically any opposition, any challenge from anyone's side. And this was going on until 20th century, by the way. Only after Second World War, by the way, British Empire actually become a part of history. Many people may forget about it, but British Empire only officially only become a part of history after Second World War. India gained independence in when India gained independence, you know, it was 47, isn't it, or 57? Let me check, by the way. '47, yes, I was correct. So India became independent in '47, by the way. Remember Suez Channel when France and UK almost went to fight Egypt because Egyptian government nationalized Suez Channel. So at that point, it was 50s, isn't it? At that point, British Empire was still in existence, on its final steps, on its final legs, but nevertheless, and French Empire too. you know, you think France and Algeria has these difficult relationships, and France and the Sahel region, generally speaking, all the countries there have difficult relationships for what? Just recently, these countries were empires that were committing numerous crimes all over the world, right? And then when they physically could not control these territories, they switched to other means of control. That includes financial and the banking institution, economical, financial control, right? And that's why London, for example, is still major financial center in this world, isn't it? So I will say Western elites hate everybody that might challenge them, because yet again, this generational aristocratic, so-called aristocratic families, they grew up when they never hear no. They were so powerful that they were always succeeding, almost always, right? And now they are losing this control, this level of control, and they hate this. They hate this. British elites, by the way, began pushing this Russophobia throughout the Europe some 200 years ago, isn't it? During their opium wars on China. Correct? When they began seeing Russia as a potential challenge. Before that, relationships were actually not bad, by the way. But after British aristocracy saw Russia as a potential challenge, they start loving to hate Russia, and they began pushing this Russia hate throughout the Europe, by the way, and they did quite succeed in that, indoctrinating European aristocracies into this Russia hate. Although it was not always like that. And of course, Russia is a heartland, by the way, of Eurasian continent, and the powerhouse. in many ways. And this is also a reason why Western elites don't like Russia. Resources, by the way, resources. They love to have control over the Russian resources because this is the only way they see themselves be able to maintain any more or less significant level of relevance on geopolitical scale in upcoming decades and potentially centuries. They need resources, Russian resources, by the way. And that's why they are this keen to prolong this proxy war, because they cannot face the reality in which they are losing this war, right? And losing the last chance that they think they have in their sick mind to establish control, to achieve strategical defeat of Russia and establish control over the Russian resources. Jeff is commenting, not everyone thinks, sir, their government's doing good. Oh, I understand this, sir. I understand, Jeff. And whenever I'm critical of Western countries, I'm critical of Western elites. I mean, I've said a million times that I'm never going to consider societies in the West, even parts of societies that actually are brainwashed and full of Russia hate, even those people I'm not going to consider to be my enemies. I mean, they are casualties, actually. Also, they are hostages of their own governments, right? So I have a very different attitude towards the societies, and you can see a friendly attitude. That's the friendly attitude. And very different attitude towards the Western elites. It's a Western elites that I consider to be existential threat for humanity, right? Including for the West, for people of the Western world. Because this is true, actually. I mean, this is true. Am I exaggerating anything? I'm not. Western elites are a threat for you. I don't know from which country you are, but they are threat for you, for me, for Nitish Kumar from India, from everybody, from Mickey from UK, or Michael Kennedy from UK, and they are enemies to all of us, man, right? And of course, I understand that there are very many people, maybe minority, but nevertheless, still very many people in the Western world that strongly disagree with the policies of their government and this Russia hate and all the negativity that they generate. And thanks God this is the case, by the way. And there are members of our community, members of community on other, throughout the alternative media, by the way. I mean, we are one community, I will say. And we definitely are not the enemies of each other. And we definitely don't want to see any society from this world to be harmed. That's for sure. Emer Blemo is commenting, as you move west from Russia, brainwashing is easy. Most nowadays rely on one Google search for their truth, in quotes. Unfortunate tragedy. Well, yeah, MSM does its thing, man. Brainwashing is, you know, I'm critical of MSM. I'm critical of Russian MSM too, and any MSM in this world, because I consider MSM to be propaganda tool. But difference between Russian MSM and Western MSM is that in Russian MSM you will see 90% truth and 10% elements of propaganda, right? Because I can notice, I don't watch TVs, by the way. I read, right? I read the press, and I take my information from press. And I grew up in the journalism. I grew up in the press, right? And I know the way news is written. I know what the outcome is expected, right? There are certain ways you write news, certain ways you write articles. And in Russian media, by the way, what is happening is there is a self-censorship in Russian MSM, that is. there is a significant level of self-censorship. I don't think Kremlin is telling these media outlets what to write and how. It's just self-censorship, by the way. I don't know why they are engaged in that, but sometimes they are sharing information, just part of the information, right? While through other means, through other sources, we already learned the story, right? So why you are censoring yourself? I mean, give us your whole information. So that's the big minus of Russian MSM, for example, that there is a tremendous level of self-censorship. But whenever they are sharing information, actual information, at least by the way, either it's actually accurate, fully accurate, or at least 90%, by the way, right? So you can actually learn some stuff. Reading Russian press, you can actually learn factual information. And if you are, not new to media, if you are paying attention to what's going on in this world, then it is very, very easy, by the way. It's not difficult to navigate, right? To navigate through this media. Russian MSM, that is. Although you always have to have your alternative sources of information anyways. But yet again, in Russian media, you have at least 90% of true, actual information. Media, because of the self-censorship, may not tell you full story, but whatever they are telling you is actually true. In the West, by the way, it's other way around. It's maybe you have 10% truth, rest is just freaking opinions and they're pure propaganda, right? So when I read the Western articles in Western media, by the way, I really struggle to understand why anybody. I read it because it's part of my work. I just have to, but I cannot understand why would anyone else, if it's not part of your job, would waste time reading this freaking opinion piece. There is no longer actual journalism in the West, by the way, in MSM. There is only opinions and some freaking nonsense, right? They give you some 10% of accurate information, news itself. The rest is pure propaganda. And of course, it is easy, man, to brainwash people when all you provide is a freaking propaganda, right? It is what it is. And the level of propaganda, by the way, I mean, level of nonsense that Western so-called media outlets, and we are talking about some big names, by the way. We are talking about, when it comes to Europe, La Figaro, by the way, right? Big name. All the UK media outlets that had their good name at once, some time ago, once upon a time, like Times or Guardian or whatever, or German media outlets, by the way, Italian ones, Spanish ones, El País and so on. They are pushing such a nonsense very often, by the way, that it's even difficult to read, right? So question you might have, for whom these people are writing, for whom this newspaper is publishing this article, for total morons who gonna read this shit and actually believe in anything? It's difficult to even read, by the way. It's such a level of nonsense that's even difficult to read, right? But I guess they already brainwashed public so much so that nowadays they are not even trying. These so-called journalists in the Western media, they are not even trying. They're just writing some garbage. Hey, that will do, man, right? And even nowadays, even today, you might see some article in some British media or German media in which Gulyai-Polye, for example, is still controlled by Kiev regime's forces. Pokrovsky is still controlled by Kiev regime forces, or the Mirnograd, or Echo, by the way. And that's how fake they are. That's how fake they are. And when they are allowing themselves to be this dismissive of objective reality, then what else they gonna, do? How they gonna be ever trusted, honestly? So, unfortunately, I think vast majority of Western societies truly are indoctrinated or the brainwashed. It's a unpleasant word to say, brainwashed, but I mean that's how it is, actually, isn't it? When those people, majority, I will argue, is so indoctrinated in these false narratives that no matter how many times you tell them true, actual true, by the way, I don't think they'll be able to accept it as a truth. Even if you will give them like 10 facts, right, to prove that this is the truth, by the way, not you read in freaking Guardian or something. I'm afraid majority of public investors are so indoctrinated that they would not be able to face reality or objective truth. And this is dangerous, I guess, because I mean, that means Western elites are not going to be challenged on a serious level, right? So they will feel free to do whatever. And they are not doing anything good, man. That's for sure. Yeah, hello, man. When there is a great conversations in the chat and discussion between the members of a community of different topics. NSPK 777 is commenting, Levant, to be clear, I was referring to non-nuclear Russian missiles. Yes, of course. I mean, when I say Oreshnik order avant-garde, these are strategical weapon systems, inner nuclear or non-nuclear modification, but they are strategical weapon systems. As Tomahawk is, by the way, that's why Moscow was saying that Tomahawk is a nuclear capable missile. So be careful, Washington, what you are saying, because once Tomahawk is launched, how we know what kind of warhead it has in it, right? And that's why when Russia is launching Oreshnik missiles, this is also extremely dangerous stuff, because I mean, it goes both ways. Neither Washington, neither London, neither any other capital in NATO knows what kind of warheads this Oreshnik missile is carrying, conventional or nuclear, right? So it's dangerous stuff. That's why Russia is not really deploying that often this system, because every time this launch happens, Moscow, I'm quite sure, by the way, Moscow was informing Washington, possibly London and Paris, these three nuclear armed countries from NATO, and also probably Russia was informing other nuclear countries too, through different means of communication, that this is a weapon that is directed on a Kiev-controlled territory and there it has no nuclear weapons on it, right? Just to make sure that you are on the safe side. Whenever there is a test launches of missiles, either in Russia or in US or in France, or countries always informed each other that I'm about to launch NBR, right? Intercontinental ICBM, for example. And it's a tester flight. This is the trajectory, and this is this. And countries are just, want to stay on safe side. So that's why I said I don't think Oreshnik is going to be deployed. When it comes to missiles, generally speaking, well, Iran has enough missiles on its own, and they're quite good missiles. You remember, NSPK, how many Iranian missiles actually managed to bypass air defenses of Israel? To nowadays, there is numerous videos, isn't it, circulating on internet when literally dozens of these Iranian missiles, warheads, are striking the ground, right? Their targets. So, I don't think Iran actually needs Russian missiles. Probably they have enough of their own, and what they need now, I think what Iran needs actually is intelligence And I think Tehran is receiving intelligence in real time from Moscow and Beijing, and that maybe from New Delhi too, because it is, of course, also in New Delhi's interests, Middle East to stay uh, as, as, as stable as possible. So they are receiving intelligence, and also most difficult challenge for Tehran is to maintain unity inside the country, because it's just too obvious that Western elites and their assets going to go after state institutions. They're not going to try to take out top leadership of Iran, political, religious, or military, but they're going to go after state institutions throughout the country, right? To create this power vacuum and to basically force different groups to fight to fulfill this vacuum, and that's a civil war, right? So that's the most difficult challenge for Iran. They cannot allow country to descend into a civil war, and they need all the assistance they can get in this regard, from China, from Russia, from everybody, to make sure that there is no civil war. And if they are managing to keep country united, to keep society united, then I think it's maximum months or two, and after that, US might be able to, carry on with these attacks. US, Israel, and whoever will support them. Maximum months or two, and that's about it, right? US will seek off ramp. US will seek negotiations, and also very important. And Iran definitely needs help with its neighbors. First of all, with Saudi Arabia, to make sure that neither Saudi Arabia, neither anyone else gonna attack. And I'm saying Saudi Arabia because I'm afraid US, US and UK, they will use whatever leverage they have over the Riyadh to actually push Saudi towards to launch a war against Iran. That will be a grave mistake on their part, but yeah. And that's why Iran needs all the assistance through diplomatic means, right? To make it clear for Riyadh not to attack Iran under whatever circumstances, to stay out of direct war, even if Saudi will provide its land and airspace and waters for attacks on Iran, and if Iran will retaliate on US military assets in Saudi territory, Riyadh should stay out of war. And hopefully Moscow and Beijing will be persuasive enough to, to keep Saudi out of the war, right? And if there is no regional war between the countries, and if Iran is managing to avoid descent into chaos, total power vacuum and civil war, then what US gonna do? What Western ruling elite is gonna do? You tell me. I mean, they might sustain high level of military pressure on Iran, these waves of attacks for maybe 3-4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, but that's it. They will run at some point. They're gonna run out of munition. They're gonna run out of operational planes, after all, right? And they will seek off ramp, and that will be seen by whole world as a victory of Iran. I think so. I don't think Russia will provide Iran with any missiles, Iskander or whatever. Russia will assist Iran through other means, and I'm quite sure Russia is already assisting Iran with some other means. And Miki from Rumble is also commenting. I guess we are on the same page that Iran needs to survive a month, and they'll survive. A lot can happen in a month. Yes, I also think that once US will deploy all their assets they can deploy and launches their attacks together with Israel, Iran has to survive months or two max, right? without descending into this total chaos and madness and civil war. And also, hopefully, Iran, through its with assistance of its friends, will manage to persuade other capitals, regional capitals, to stay out of direct conflict with Iran, and that's about it, right? US will back down. They wouldn't be able to sustain that high level of military pressure. Emer Blamo is commenting, are you doing anything on the last day of Muslims, brother? Did you attend there any events? Also, happy defenders of their fatherland day coming. Yes, tomorrow, dear friends, we have a Defenders Day. Thank you very much. Happy Defenders Day to you too. And when it comes to Muslims, unfortunately, I did not attend any events, but we have blinchiks, by the way. We have, of course, we have blins. How you say in English, blin? Pancakes. We have, yeah, we have pancakes, and yeah, we enjoy pancakes, of course. So it's a great tradition, obviously, by the way, and yeah, we are joining as much as we can. Unfortunately, well, I had no time, by the way, we had no opportunity actually to go for a little walk around, and there is so many events, different events throughout Moscow and throughout the country, by the way. But unfortunately, some 3 weeks ago, my wife hurt back at work, and she's has to stay at home and take some medicine and stuff. And we just, we kind of stuck at home, and as a family cannot move around for time being. But she's recovering now. She's recovering. She's okay. So yeah. But yeah, we didn't join no events, but we are celebrating. That's for sure. Blini at pancakes.
No,
I did not know.
first the pancakes and it's also patolsha. That's patolsha.
Yes, pancakes that I have seen in the videos are like thick ones, and blini ani like paper.
Pancakes это большие оладушки. Ну, блин, это pancakes.
Okay. Dear friends, it's 3.5 hours already. Stream is going, and if I may, also Nitish Kumar is commenting. The one F-22 maintenance problem is they dismantle the plants after building 180, so they reap parts from others. Yes, I mean they are no longer. I agree with you absolutely, Nitish. They are no longer able to produce F-22s, and for some parts probably they are cannibalizing now on other F-22s, right? And maybe this is the reason why, based on open sources, US was able to deploy about like 2-3 dozens of F-22s only. Most of them are still in UK for now, but probably will be directed towards either Cyprus, mostly probably towards Cyprus, and they will operate from Cyprus, which makes Cyprus a legit target, by the way, for Iran's retaliatory strike. So Cypriots should be, like wary about it and stay away from this British military base that is used by US whenever they want to. But in any case, this might explain, yes, why number of deployed F-22s is relatively low. I mean, 2-3 dozen of F-22s is quite a lot, obviously. Right? This is extremely capable plane, even if it's 30-year-old airframe. But out of 180, only like 20, 30 planes being deployed. It's quite telling. And dear friends, let's end the live stream now. Let's end live stream now. We had a good conversation, isn't it? Many thanks to all the members of community who donated during the stream, and many thanks to all the members of community who supported in the past and continues to support and keeps me in this field of news and political commentary. Hopefully you enjoyed the chat itself, and also hopefully you did find new segment informative and useful. Truly grateful for your attention and support and time. Have a wonderful day, you friends, and see you tomorrow. Bye and take care.